Donna, how's my audio?
Your audio sounds okay. Your video looks fuzzy, and you look pale AF. I mean, you know.
Get some sun,
I know
Vax.
I know you stay inside a lot, Vax, but I don't feel like you stay inside that much.
I just bought a new video capture device, and the thing won't work as a webcam.
Okay.
Really close.
But, I don't feel like you stay inside that much.
Right. There's this little clip.
Vax, let me get some audio from you.
See if we can. Say again.
Let me get some audio just from you.
Audio just from me. Well, I'm talking here on a microphone. I'm using a Zoom H6 stereo system. And how are we doing there audio-wise?
Sounds good, thank you.
Alrighty. See if I can clean this webcam up at all.
Space mic.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. We're going to be having an interesting conversation today. And for the Falcon Heavy test flight video that I uploaded in there, there's audio that comes back a couple of times, just so you know.
Yeah, we cannot use the music on air.
Oh, okay.
Copyright.
We'll just kill the
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just kill audio. I know when it happens. I reviewed it. Wow.
Okay, cool.
What's going on there, Vax? You just turned orange.
Playing with the camera settings.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow. Nothing from the peanut gallery, please.
Yeah. I had you muted. What did you say, Ben?
No,
I said,
no,
was
no,
that the-
no, no, no,
Oh,
no,
we are on
no,
air.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Gotcha.
I don't suppose you have earbuds by chance. I forgot to ask you to bring any.
There's some.
There's some
Okay,
package on
we've
the-
got some for you. This is the receive pack that will allow you to hear what's going on. And then I need mic number 4.
No, you've got guest. It's out there.
That's mic number 4. Where's guest?
It's on the chair. It says guest. You only labeled you and guest.
That's
so
because I ran out of labels.
it's. You keep telling me that.
Is there an IFB pack over here?
Like
Do we
one
only
of-
have 3 IFB? We should have 4 IFB
One of
packs,
these?
right?
Yeah.
I thought I put it
So,
with your pile of crap.
Much like me, you're going to want to run it kind of down the shirt
really
or
would've
around the
sworn I
side.
did.
Make sure it clears any jewelry or anything like that. It should step off of your shirt like this so that we don't get any rubbing sound. So once that's wired up, let me know. Oh, you can wear it. Just don't let it rub against it. So like,
pretty like clappy.
okay, cool. And then grab that, and then once you're ready, I'll have you patch into this pack. Is this a fresh battery, HB1?
I don't know. I think so. I'm not sure though.
That's all right. I'll grab one that I know is good. Jared, are you still missing your
these.
IFB pack?
But like,
Are you
the
still missing your
leathery
IFB pack?
Yes. I do not know where it is.
Okay. So I did give one to Sarah, but
Did you get a lower thirds for Vax?
no, I did not. That's a good point.
yeah, I think the leather-bound one is Jared's.
Okay, so we only have 3 IFB packs here?
I believe so. These are all microphones.
All right.
So somebody has to use a crappy one. And no offense to Sarah, it should probably be her.
All right, Sarah, we're going to have to trade out your IFB pack. We're going to give you one of these instead.
Okay. Wait.
Oh no, you put your mic on correctly actually. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
You did it.
Deal with
Nailed
that.
it.
Deal with that. And then,
No, it's supposed to
No,
be down.
it goes down.
But just off of,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool. I did it. Congrats.
stealing.
Do it.
Sorry,
Okay.
it's not you.
This is
It's
yours.
him.
This goes in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
It does. So.
we're going to
Thing with this thing.
I'll change these out.
Up here.
How's this?
So just remember when that mic's on. I usually treat when the microphone's on as
I'm going to have to figure out how to route.
Do these change color, or like they're always red when they're on?
We're always red when they're on.
Okay.
You have a point. Oh boy. I haven't done this in a while.
Excuse me for just a
I
second.
know. Good luck.
IFB.
What was that?
This fits in my ear. So
Congrats. I'm so proud of you.
oh, it feels so weird.
Yeah, but they're a lot smoother than the old ones.
Yes.
Like a lot smoother.
That feels a lot more comfortable.
Well, yeah.
But it still feels weird as heck.
Well, yeah.
Okay, what am I doing?
This is your ear.
Nice.
Also, I forgot that my right ear is the one that has only like 30% hearing in it. So if you want to talk to me, you better be mic'd up. Sure, that works too.
Earbuds.
They're buds for your ears.
Brand new, never been used, so those are yours. Or no. No, I think somebody opened those. I'm sorry. Yeah. Ow!
Wow. Wow. So,
Assist me.
Oh, I think those buds are Jared's.
Right, but he has a thing now.
yeah, I got my
But
AFB.
these are the,
Thanks.
So I'm like,
Thanks.
yeah.
you left those supposed to be.
You should not be allowed to handle delicate things.
You know, they don't let me at work.
Yeah, I can see why.
Baggage, that's enough.
What was that?
What? Nothing?
What happened?
Nothing.
Don't worry about it.
It's bad when both of us do that. All right, and then the other thing about this. Yeah, where's this? Pulling, sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah, this. See this tiny little in there? That will help keep that a little bit more stable.
Nice.
Jared always F's that up too.
Please don't ask me any technical questions. I will not know the answers.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Sorry. There you go. De nada. I'm not even going to ask.
Try, is that Chrome? Yeah. Try private mode. Because then you don't have any cache data. You're not pulling from a cache archive.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
That was weird.
8, 6, 7, 5.
All right. That sort of works. That doesn't work. I'm muted. 1, 2. Okay. Theory on paper.
Okay, let's get the chat open.
Yeah, good luck. I've been trying.
All right. This goes. So chat doesn't work for anyone?
No.
Correct.
Yay, Colton. Chat's working. Working.
Facebook module crashing server.
Neat.
All right, is this any better? All right.
Oh, yeah.
Much better than before?
You just came in my ear.
Right. So, but this is better than it used to be, like last week or whenever? Okay. Great. Yep. It is now 5 feet away from you.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's
I would get you guys the other packs, but that whole setup with all 4 is like $500, and each one of those receivers is over $1,000.
Oh, geez.
I know. So I was like, I don't want to. Hi, Vax. You still look shitty.
Yeah, but at least
I might be able to fix. I might be able to fix that on my side. Hang on.
That looks poopy.
Vax, but I would never ask this of any other guest, but you may. Do you happen to have a color balance chart?
No.
Okay. Because then I was going to get it like exact, because I can. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on my
It's all right.
I'm on my laptop's webcam.
It's all good. It's all good. I have magic superpowers. Okay. Ox 1 needs to be
SCE?
6. Ox 1. Oh my God! Space nerd jokes. I love it. Video.
Can't take you anywhere.
Proc amp.
Just take me to the pad.
Does he look a little more human now, although oversaturated?
Red.
He looks too red.
Yeah,
Pull it back a little bit.
a little bit.
How's that?
That was pretty good.
How about that?
What's the difference?
Yeah, split the difference.
That split.
Okay.
Okay, that's just creepy, Vax. You're just creepy.
That's just Vax. Yeah, other than...
Okay, pull the saturation down a bit so he's not quite as poppy.
Uh-huh.
Let's see if we can...
Ooh, duh. Yeah, that's what happened earlier.
It's the genie of Vax!
Well, I was playing with the saturation on my end.
Why don't you do this? My controls are going to be more precise than your controls. Can you set yours flat to 0?
Well, that was insulting.
Well,
Coming.
it's the difference between a webcam control and an actual like broadcast.
I am very aware. It was funny. Like, my stuff's going to be better than yours, so just don't try.
Well,
that's what I heard.
Kind
just
of.
FYI, that's how you come off to everyone.
That's fine. I accept it.
I know you do. That's the worst part.
That's pretty flat.
Okay, thank you. Where did he go?
Yeah, this chat just don't wanna.
Chat no work.
I mean, I can try and Firefox.
What about just regular chat? Not the betas.
Regular chat works fine.
Yeah, I guess, but then I can't push anything, so why would I bother?
Doopy-doo.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah, all
Vax,
you got up here is crappy fluorescence, so...
that's fine. What color is your ceiling?
It's pretty much just a slightly off-white gray. It's
Okay.
there shouldn't be any color in it.
Okay.
If the video capture card that I bought had worked, which it doesn't work as a webcam, I have to buy the next version up. It's another $30. Then I've been able to use my Canon G40.
What we use, in case you care, we use the Magewells.
Okay.
So they've got an HDMI capture and a SDI capture.
Yeah,
And the nice thing is that they act as essentially as USB webcams. How's that look, guys? You look fairly decent and human now? Well, I mean, we know that he's not actually human, but we need to give the illusion.
yeah, that's like a million times better than before.
All right.
Like, his skin has color, his shirt has color.
I've got a little bit too much chrominance in the ceiling, but I can't correct for one or the other, so I think I'll take that.
Yeah, no.
That you're looking at.
And I can see both sides of his face, too, which is also helpful. For a while, it was just sort of...
All right.
Like the Star Trek guys, right?
Yeah.
I like that jacket, Vax. It's pretty sweet.
The real, actual lab jacket.
Nice. Everybody's.
They changed over. They changed over styles at work, and so if I sent this one back for cleaning, it would have just disappeared.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wouldn't have come. It recycled it back in.
Did
So
it
I
with
brought
my
it
work
home
shirt,
to
too.
use for educational outreach.
Emery, it's STAGMER, is that correct?
That is correct.
Great.
Confused. I'm like, Stone, why are you responding so quickly?
Oh, yeah, no, she's got like 2 weeks. Yeah.
It should be a 20-minute lag there, right?
Yeah, she left a whole bunch of stuff here.
Titties in space.
All right, Dada, slot 8 for Emery.
Right.
Colton said chat should be back.
Yeah, I got chat back.
Great. And we have control. Yep. Huzzah.
Right.
Are we recording?
Oh, no. Good call. Crash it. Actually, Mike, you look really good today. Wow. Yeah, really.
Oh, thank you.
That's really great skin tone. That's probably the best that's ever looked. That's incredible.
Keep it up, Mike.
Did you guys do any adjustments or anything like
No,
that on the
nothing.
television on that end?
Well, on the television, maybe. I was actually only really looking at the TV. Crash record.
'Cause I haven't touched anything on my end,
Yeah.
but I'm not like extra pink anymore.
So to be,
that looks good.
yeah, you are. Well, you know, we did repaint these cameras a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking. I'm liking how this looks. This is much better than before. All right, how are we on time? Oh, look at that! We're ready to do this thing?
I had a texture update. That's what it was.
You've been reskinned.
All right.
Sarah, is your mic on?
Custom reskin.
Can I get a mic check from you, please?
Yeah, should be a switch on the side. There you go.
Does that work now?
Yeah.
Nice.
There we go.
What did you have for breakfast?
Nothing.
What'd you have for dinner last night?
I don't remember. Ramen.
Tell me a short story, please. It's more than 3 words.
I really like eggs and ham, but only if they're green.
All right, thanks.
And kitties eating skeleton.
Do we have the Mac power supply, the USB-C one?
I have one.
One of those, and I've got.
Yeah, go for it. Grab one.
Great, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name's Lisa. For those that don't know me, I'm a host of TMRO, but actually I'm not going to be hosting the show for the next 8 months because I'm actually participating as a crew member of the High Seas Mission 6 mission. So High Seas is the Hawaiian Space Exploration Analog and Simulation, and it's funded by NASA and operated by the University of Hawaii. I'm going to be part of a 4-person crew who's going to be living isolated here for 4 months on the side of Mauna Loa in Hawaii. And as part of that, we're going to be doing different kinds of studies in science, like looking at things like the geology around the area, crew cohesion, behavior, and psychology. And as part of that, hopefully that data will help us to make our space operations better for planetary missions and extend our knowledge in all of these areas. And as part of that, we're also going to have a 20-minute communication delay each way between us here in the simulation and the rest of mission support and the rest of Earth. So I'm hoping to keep you guys along on the journey and keep you updated. But until then, until I see you in 8 months' time, hopefully I'll still be able to communicate with you guys and give you some updates along the journey. So until then, see you later. Bye.
Welcome to the conversation. I am Carrie Ann, and I will be your host in this first segment. I, of course, have with me a Jared, who is our astrophysicist in charge. I also have Mike, who is our rocket specialist. He's sometimes also in charge. And then who's really in charge and pressing all of the buttons, I have a Dada who's making this show go. So now today in news...
Dream Chaser gets a step closer to its first space station flight.
And we've got some planets in a galaxy far, far restart. So,
sorry, I was going off of absolutely no script.
Not you, Banner.
Cool.
You're good.
That's what happens when I have nothing. You apparently became an astrophysicist. I apologize.
That's all right.
Literally had nothing. I was like, I say words here and I don't know what they are.
It's okay. We're good now. So.
You all good?
Oh, I got kicked from chat.
I thought that was a funny
Can you
intro.
good?
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Welcome to the conversation. I'm Carrie Ann, and I will be your host in this first of 3 segments for the show. With me today, I have a Jarrett, who is our resident astronomer. I also have a Mike, who is our rocket specialist. And behind us, of course, the one actually pressing the buttons is a Dada. Now, today in news...
Dream Chaser gets a step closer to its first space station flight.
And we've got some planets in a galaxy far, far away.
I feel like I've heard that one before. We're also going to be talking in our second segment, a huge roundtable talking about, I don't know, like that big thing that just happened, Falcon Heavy. And then in our third segment, we're going to be taking on your questions and comments about last week's show. But this is tomorrow, Orbit 11.06.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
Now, of course, at the very top of the show, I want to make sure I give a big thank you to all of our citizen supporters. These are the Escape Velocity citizens. They get their name in all 3 segments of the show. They get access to some citizen-only hangouts, and they get a lot more, and they deserve all of the thanks that we can possibly give them. If you are interested in becoming one of our Escape Velocity citizens, or any of our citizens in general, you can head on over to patreon.com/TMRO or to makersupport.com/TMRO. Oh my goodness. I kind of feel like this is going to be an interesting segment because reasons. So Mike, we like to usually talk about the launches that, maybe people haven't had a chance to catch up on since the last time we were on. Did anything interesting happen?
Well, one of the trends that we've been noticing over the past couple of weeks and months has been there's been so many launches to talk about, and unfortunately there was only one launch to talk about this week.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a pretty cool one though, so I feel like we'll take a little extra time and look at it in depth, and I feel like you guys won't be disappointed.
All right,
of course, we're talking about the Falcon Heavy launch, and yeah, we're trying our best to keep our composure here and keep our excitement down. But this was launching from the historic launch pad, the same one that was launching the Saturn V moon rockets and space shuttles, Launch Complex 39A at Cape Canaveral. And wow, what an amazing test flight this was.
8. Side booster ignition. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
Capturing the attention and the imagination of the world, the Falcon Heavy lifted off on Tuesday, February 6th at 20:45 Coordinated Universal Time. And the Falcon Heavy did not explode on or right off the pad like Elon Musk expected it to. Oh, man. The 3-core booster was able to handle the thrust of 27 Merlin 1D engines, and as it surpassed the speed of sound and withstood the extreme aerodynamic pressures, it survived all of the buffeting during Max Q that some of the engineers worried would tear the rocket apart. And not long after Max Q, the 2 previously flown Falcon 9 side boosters detached and flipped around after separation for a boost back burn to guide them back on a path back towards the launch site. And wow, even just seeing that and seeing the core stage continue on was really cool. But just moments after that, the core stage actually separated from the upper stage, and the second stage engine ignited as planned. Now, the core stage performed its own maneuver to return back to Earth, doing its own boost back burn. And not too long after that, the payload fairing deployed, showing us an incredible image of Elon Musk's cherry red Tesla Roadster and the spacesuit-clad mannequin named Starman. And oh my gosh, I don't know about you guys, but my heart was pumping so hard seeing this coming down live. Oh my gosh. And Oh man, and I just words can't even express. I thought that the whole idea of launching up the Tesla was just silly, but actually seeing this moment happen and seeing it in Earth orbit there was just mind blowing. And I love everything surrounding it. I love how there was a plaque on the side that had the names of all the different SpaceX employees who were involved with this. I loved how they had a smaller a version of the Tesla, a Micro Machines Tesla, on the hood of the car. Don't panic message, and even the ARC data that was brought along on the data disk that was brought along on this flight, and just everything about this was so much more amazing than I ever thought it was going to be. But probably just as incredible as that was the simultaneous landing of both of the side boosters coming back down for a landing at Landing Zone 1 and Landing Zone 2, the newly Landing Zone 2, just a few miles south of the launch pad. And just seeing this moment, you can even see in the footage there, after these boost back burns right here, I thought it was really amazing. At first, it looked like it was the same image on the two bottom screens there, but as they were coming in close for a landing, you can see one of the boosters ignite in the bottom left screen, and just seeing them come down in tandem like that was just incredible. And in just a second here, you're going to hear the crowd come back in, and I feel like that, in and of itself, their reaction was just amazing.
And that landing burn has started.
Both boosters looking to be on track towards their respective landing zones.
Landing burns have started. Side boosters' landing legs are deployed. Both side boosters have touchdown. Landing operators move on to 11 by 1 recovery 1 and recovery 2.
And coming up very shortly, the Central Core will be attempting its landing on the autonomous spaceport drone ship.
Now, SpaceX tried to recover the Falcon Heavy central core on the drone ship positioned downrange in the Atlantic Ocean, but that maneuver did not go as well. The rocket's core stage apparently ran out of igniter fluid. It was going to ignite 3 engines instead of just the normal one. And Elon Musk said that it crashed into the sea a short distance from the uncrewed drone ship, and it took out 2 of the ship's engines and spread debris all over the deck. And that wasn't the only hiccup for this particular launch as well. The upper stage, after it performed 2 engine burns to put it into a parking orbit, it parked in the Van Allen belts and spent about 6 hours there before doing the 3rd and final burn to send it beyond Earth's trajectory and into the rest of the solar system. And Musk wrote on Twitter late on Tuesday night after the launch that the upper stage had fired as planned and that it was on its correct trajectory. But later the next day on SpaceX's website, they actually had the actual telemetry, so to speak, for this. And it actually turns out that the upper stage in the Tesla is in an orbit that's about 159 million miles or 259 kilometers from the sun at its greatest distance, or its apogee. And its shortest distance is around 1.7 million miles further than the sun than Earth is. And it's not going to be going on the Mars flyby trajectory that was originally planned for it. It eventually will someday if the Tesla survives for many years, but it's not going to be rendezvousing with Mars anytime soon. So as amazing as all this is, both that and not recovering the central core is a little bit disappointing, but this just exceeded, I'm sure, everyone's expectations. And to see all this successfully happen was incredible. SpaceX isn't going to be reusing the side boosters that landed. Those are going to be museum pieces once they figure out where to put those, whether it's SpaceX headquarters or somewhere else. And the next version is going to be using the Block 5 upgrades for the Falcon 9. And that hopefully will be happening this summer, launching the Space Test Program for the Air Force. So that's going to be really cool to see, and hopefully everything goes well for that, and Falcon Heavy gets certified for military and commercial missions. So What an awesome launch.
I know a lot of people were worried if you were going to be hyperventilating or what was going to be happening there for a while. And I know, Jared, you had a heart monitor that basically said that you were having a heart attack right around that time.
Yeah, I looked at my Apple Watch's heart monitor after the launch, and my heart rate was pretty close to 140 right around liftoff. So yeah, I was slightly nervous. So
all right, okay,
just to say a little bit. So.
There, of course, like I said, in the second segment, we're going to have a huge roundtable. We've got some people who are down at the site. You know, we're all going to be talking about Falcon Heavy in the second segment. So for now, we're just going to move on. That really was awesome. Really sad that we only had one launch this week, but man, there's always next week, right, guys?
Heck of a launch, though. So.
We have 2 scheduled launches just on tomorrow, so
awesome.
on Sunday. So we'll have a bunch of stuff to talk about next.
I love it. So, Mr. Jared.
Yes.
Speaking of Mars, or not Mars, and Exo Mars and all these other things.
Yeah.
You have things to tell me.
Yeah, so
learn me, Jared.
We have some really great news, not just from SpaceX, but also from our friends across the pond at the European Space Agency, which is that their Mars mission, ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, has finally completed its aerobraking. So ExoMars TGO arrived at Mars in October of 2016, and it began the process of aerobraking in January 2017. Now, aerobraking is a technique where you fly through the upper atmosphere of a celestial body, and you use the friction generated to lower your velocity, or that drag that's being generated. It basically slows you down. So in the case of Mars TGO, the large solar panels aided in generating that drag as it flew through the upper atmosphere of Mars at an altitude of about 110 kilometers. Now, that altitude allows for a precise balance between the atmospheric drag to slow TGO and then the loading of heat on TGO as it zips through those upper fringes of Mars' atmosphere. Now, after over a year worth of aerobraking, it takes quite a while to do that, TGO has shaved off nearly 781.5 meters per second of velocity via aerobraking. So no use of a thruster to do this and burn off all of that velocity. They just simply let it coast through the atmosphere a little bit lower than its actual operational orbit. Now, it went from an epicenter, or high point of its orbit, of 33,200 kilometers down to 2,700 kilometers in less than a year. And now the thrusters are going to take over, and they're going to do the rest of the job. They're going to lower TGO into a circular orbit at an altitude of about 400 kilometers. Now, in that circular orbit, TGO will do work to characterize the composition of Mars' surface with its instrument package on board from its orbital perch. In addition, TGO is going to act as a telecommunications relay system for NASA's current Mars Exploration Rover Opportunity and Mars Science Laboratory's Curiosity and future missions that will be heading off to Mars. And its primary mission is expected to run until 2022 on orbit around Mars. We'll see what happens in 2022. As long as the spacecraft's healthy and everything's good, they'll likely extend the life of TGO, and we'll see it continue on. So
nice.
Should be pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Awesome.
You know, I apologize. I lost it in the chat here. Therian, there we go. Therian asked, how much fuel do they save by this aerobraking? Do you know?
Well, they probably, I would say, oh my gosh, I want to say like a couple hundred kilograms of propellant.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that ends up being, you know, a couple hundred kilograms you can put towards your instrument package or something like that. Yeah. Don't quote me on that. I know someone's going to do the math and then put in a comment about how wrong I am, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, obviously it's 781 meters per second. That is a lot of velocity change.
Yeah.
So, you know, you do have to wait a year, a little over a year to get yourself in orbit, but usually the weight savings is much more valued than saving a year's worth of time.
Yeah, totally.
So, and then it could still do it's
slow and steady wins the race.
And it was still doing science while it was getting in these aerobraking orbits as well. Cool. So, and then we can also do science with the actual aerobrake itself. We can figure out the densities of the upper atmosphere of Mars from that as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because you can look at the Doppler, basically the shift in the radio waves from TGO, and you can determine just how dense the atmosphere was as you went down into it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, that's some really cool stuff.
Oh, I now have like a a coffee thing to relate to that. That's interesting. We'll not get into that now. Maybe after dark.
Yeah, let's do it after dark.
In any case, so Mike, this is also a really exciting story as far as I'm concerned. This is a name that we have not talked about in a while, and thankfully we're not talking about how this is a program that's dying or dead.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
this is a program that is progressing forward.
Totally.
And what we're talking about is that NASA has given the authority to proceed to Sierra Nevada Space Systems for their Dream Chaser cargo version to proceed forward towards its first flight in late 2020. And the Dream Chaser spacecraft is going to be launching on the Atlas V vehicle and is part of the Commercial Resupply Services Contract 2. CRS-1 only has, of course, SpaceX and Orbital ATK supplying cargo to the space station, but under CRS-2, Sierra Nevada was added with their Dream Chaser cargo. So it's been a really long road for Dream Chaser.
Very long road.
Yes.
Very long road. And with their development mainly focused on the crew-capable version when they were trying to be a part of the Commercial Crew Program, Dream Chaser was sidelined when NASA's Commercial Crew Program chose SpaceX's Dragon 2 and Boeing's Starliner capsules for the transportation of astronauts to the space station. But despite that, Sierra Nevada Corporation still ensured that this version, the cargo version of the vehicle, would complete a major milestone that was left under the Commercial Crew Program. In fact, it was the Commercial Crew Integrated Capability contract, the CCICAP contract. And it completed the successful approach and landing test in November. It was actually the second test. That was, I think, the last time that we talked about them. And that landing test, even though it was originally for the crew version, was able to provide info for the cargo version of Dream Chaser as well, because it's also going to be using a lot of the same critical components and software to return from missions from the space station. All the different maneuvers and control inputs made by the integrated computer system confirmed that the spacecraft has stability during atmospheric flight and was able to land properly as well, using the type of landing legs that they were and deployable landing wheels that they were actually planning on using. Now, following that test back in November, the data was provided to NASA's Commercial Crew Office for review, and they confirmed that it fully met or even exceeded all of the requirements for that last milestone for the Commercial Crew Integrated Capability development contract, and it gave them the full payment for that last milestone and confirmed that it also validated the spacecraft design for a safe and reliable return of cargo from the International Space Station and is going to be used to complete the final design. Now, last year, before the landing test in July of 2017, Sierra Nevada Corp and United Launch Alliance jointly announced that the Atlas V would launch the first 2 operational cargo versions of the Dream Chaser to the ISS. And the first mission is scheduled to launch from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral in 2020, and the second one in 2022. Now, those dates were just notional until just this week on Wednesday, February 7th, when NASA provided the authority to proceed milestone for the commercial cargo program. And the Atlas V, what I think is really interesting is it's going to be flying in the 552 configuration with the 5-meter payload fairing, 5 solid rocket boosters, and the Centaur upper stage will have dual engines. They've never flown the dual engine version of Centaur on the Atlas V rocket yet. But both the Dream Chaser and the Starliner capsule will need the dual Centaur version in order to get all that extra payload into its correct orbit. Now, following the stay at the ISS, of course, as you saw in that video there, it's going to come down to a nice landing, just like they planned with the cargo version. So
cool.
It's exciting to see this moving forward.
Yeah, Ben always likes to talk about this. Yeah, spaceplane. That it looks like a little mini shuttle to a certain extent, but yeah, this is really cool. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
So Jared. Yeah. We have to talk.
We do.
Because I saw the preview of some of these images, and this doesn't look very family friendly necessarily.
It is family friendly. I mean, we just legalized it here in California. So late last year, you may have heard that one of the biggest stories that we had in at least local sciences in our solar system from last year was that we had a detection and observations of an object known as 1I 2017 U1.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, which is better known as Oumuamua, which is the interstellar asteroid that just happened to cruise through our our neighborhood. Now, it was discovered on October 19th, 2017 by the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System 1, a great observation program known as PanSTARRS out in Hawaii.
Because that's a lot easier to say.
Yes. Now, some of the most powerful ground and space-based telescopes were immediately called into action to begin data gathering, and flow the data did. And that's all under a deep dive review by the respective teams right now. Some of the things that we know about Oumuamua is that it's very long, nearly 10-to-1 length width, and it's reddish in color, which is something that we would actually expect something that gets exposed to cosmic radiation outside of our solar system to look like. And it's not that this is the first object from interstellar space to be drifting past us through our solar system. It's that this is the first time we actually saw one of those interstellar interlopers making its way past. Now, postdoc Manasavi Lingam from the Harvard Institute for Theory and Computation and Abraham Leib, a researcher at the Harvard Smithsonian for Astrophysics, worked on a recently published study called Implications of Captured Interstellar Objects for Panspermia and Extraterrestrial Life. And that study actually proposed that instead of looking for life elsewhere throughout the universe, we should actually hunt down these interstellar objects in our own solar system and look for signs of life or remnants of alien technology on them instead. That it might be actually a potential strategy for us to take a look at the potentiality of life outside of our solar system, somewhere in life just in general in the universe. Now, in order to hunt your quarry, you need to know just how much is actually out there. So the study did that as well. They tried to figure out the distribution of these objects in our solar system. And they concluded that at any given time, there's at least several thousand interstellar objects like Oumuamua in our solar system. Oh. And some of them actually should be tens of kilometers across. So, like, good-sized things out
huge.
There. It's just that they're very, very dark. So it's difficult for us to see them. It's only recently that we've actually gotten the technology to actually hunt down these objects, potentially. So much for being a rare thing, Oumuamua. Turns out it's not special at all. There's probably a couple thousand Oumuamuas in our own solar system at any given time.
See, as Chad Leach in YouTube says, it looks like poo.
Yeah, it did look like a little bit of a poo. It also looks a little bit like something else to me that I probably can't say on air.
Probably not, but I understand. It's quite dark.
Yeah, it is very dark. It's very red too.
It's not as red as the cherry Tesla.
That's true. So, well, maybe that's a Tesla from another solar system.
Oh, that's such a good point. I love that idea. Okay. So. All right, what we're going to do is take a bit of a calendar break so you can see the things that Mike is going to be talking about next week. And then when we come back, there's going to be a whole bunch of us talking about all the things, the one thing that Mike was really excited about this last week, if that made any sense. We're going to be talking about Falcon Heavy.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And its future. How's that for? It'll be an interesting talk. Stay with us. There's more tomorrow coming right up.
This girl's a fascination, and nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. The heat keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking. To be free.
And welcome back to Tomorrow. And before we get started with the Falcon Heavy recap, I did want to give a huge shout out to all of the citizens of Tomorrow. It's been a while since I've done this, apparently.
It's literally written in the script.
Read the commie. The commie's good.
In the script.
These are people who've contributed $10. Did you miss me? Did you miss me?
No.
$10 or more to the specific episode. We also have our orbital citizens. These are people who contributed $5 or more to this specific episode. To find out how you can help crowdfund the shows of Tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO or makerssupport.com/TMRO. Wait, I need to, we're really, a lot of people here. A lot of people here. All
Just
right,
a few.
So we've been introduced to most people here. We are also joined I'll go around. We've got Emery Stagmer. He's been on the show many times. Vax Headroom. I don't even know how many times this is for you. We'll call it 280.
Sure.
You were at the launch of Falcon Heavy. And we also go ahead. Well, we'll get into you in just a second. And we also have Sarah Fisher. Welcome, first time on the show. Also at the launch of Falcon Heavy, and she doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be making animations for us, and it's going to be awesome.
Oh, great.
That's how this goes. I tell people in real time on the air what's going to happen. I kind of wanted to do, Heavy is the big thing, right? It made national news. It was national attention on it. I think it sparked an interest in space that I don't want to say was lost, but it almost feels it feels incredible, absolutely incredible. And so this round table is going to be talking about that feeling of what changed with Heavy. How did you feel? What was it like for you? And I do want to start, Emery, with you. And I'd like to know, you were at the Falcon Heavy launch. What was it like?
Yeah.
What was it like being there at the press site?
It was just an absolute perfect storm for a launch. The delay built up a certain level of tension. The weather was absolutely gorgeous. We had I had Tim Dodd. I was actually positioned right behind the countdown clock because I'm trying to capture the audio as well as I can, right? Mm-hmm. And it was fairly windy. There was about a 15-mile-an-hour ground wind all day. And so I'm like hunkered down behind the countdown clock. There's like some big power boxes and stuff there, and I had like the microphones like hunkered down behind those trying to get rid of the wind noise. And Tim Dodd's like about, 20 yards in front of me to my left, and in my video you can hear him doing running commentary all the time.
Dodd, I think we have one of those videos, right? Can you roll that while he's talking? Keep going back. So we'll try to do both. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tim is just off camera to my left here in that shot. And when the thing, we couldn't hear, right? The only audio that we could hear was what people were set their phones up to watch the SpaceX live stream, right? And we could hear the crowds, and sometimes we could hear the countdown on that. And so we were, yeah, you can hear me say that in there. This was so bright. It is indescribable on video. The video just saturates and gives you white, but the thing is so bright in real life. You can see a couple people there. The second one in the light blue shirt is from the right is Robert Perlman, and Tim is just to the left of this shot. You got to go to YouTube and watch this video because I'm really proud of the audio here. The sound off the countdown clock was so loud that there are 4 3-inch diameter steel supports that come off the countdown clock back at about a 45 degree angle and bolt to the ground, and they were moving more than half an inch. So it was,
holy smokes!
Yeah, right.
That's
the sound
amazing.
pressure level. The sound level was amazing.
Oh, jeez.
And just seeing this by now, it was so bright. The flames have been so bright that you had like a spot in front of your eyes, so you're like kind of look around a little bit and try and find the rocket up in the sky. The red on the right-hand side there is a blanket that I'm using just to keep the sound off the microphones. So we lost it a little bit in the upper cirrus clouds there. We did see the twin side booster boost back burns with our eyes. I didn't capture it in my camera. I couldn't find it fast enough. I saw it, and then we saw them coming down. And then I moved the camera out from behind the countdown clock in order to try and capture that cloud shot. That contrail shot there is gorgeous. But I must have bumped the record button on the camera. The audio kept recording. I'm on a separate audio recorder, but I missed the landing, booster landing. But there's plenty of other people that captured the booster landings. But it was exhilarating. The adrenaline rush was amazing.
In the chat room, Jason 519 says the sound wasn't just a roar; it sounded like it was ripping the air apart. You've also been to many shuttle launches as well. How would you compare? Because shuttle also, it was ripping ripping sound itself. Well, how did it compare to shuttle?
The difference, I only saw the last shuttle launch. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I only saw one. You got. Oh, that was really good. I would say that the concussive crackle that you get was a little bit lower pitched with Falcon. The solids on the shuttle probably have a little bit higher of a crack in that concussive audio that's coming back from them. So the sound timbre was a little bit different, but it was the same kind of volume. It was really loud.
That's awesome.
Sarah, you were also at the Falcon Heavy launch, is that correct? So what was it like was this your first launch ever, or was this?
No, I've been to a couple of Vandenberg launches with Jared. I don't remember what the first one we went to, but do you remember?
I think it was Iridium. So one of the Iridium launches,
3 or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Also, really quickly, Vax was at the media site, which is like what,
3.2 miles, I believe.
And then where were you?
I was as close as you could get to the public, like outside of Playa Linda Beach.
Gotcha.
Which is, I think, 3.5 miles away.
Okay, yeah, so really close, though. So.
Yeah, and I was so kind of out of it because I was going on like 36 hours of no sleep and
Nice.
almost throwing up from the launch.
Awesome.
And I was just, it was a lot.
I feel like that's kind of the way you should do it.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a different site, so it's not Vandenberg. You can see the rocket, I assume, which you can't at Vandenberg. What was it like for you? What was that experience like, other than 36 hours of no sleep and almost throwing up?
Yeah. It was really cool being able to see all the different type of people there. There were a lot of different people. I guess Florida people seem like more congregated in, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just like a lot of different groups of people that you wouldn't really expect, like people from all walks of life. People of all ages, but at the same time, the other launches that I've been to have also been at nighttime, so I haven't really been observing the people there either. But everyone there were sitting on top of their cars, had a bunch of really long lens cameras and stuff, and were taking lots of different, I guess, pictures of the rocket. But when it actually launched, it was pretty silent for the first minute, and then it just started getting louder and louder, and Heavy started showing up right over the trees. Because where I was, I could see Kennedy Space Center, and there's a little bit of a clearing where I thought the 39A was, but it was, I think it was the, what was the booster one, LZ1?
LZ1 and LZ2.
Yeah, I saw like the, I saw that area, I think, but Heavy just kind of like went up, and it was really quiet, and then it got really loud, and it was really cool. I don't really know how else to describe it other than it was really interesting to see how large it was, even though I was still 3 miles away. It just kind of put everything into perspective. So that was pretty interesting.
How was it emotionally? Like, was it emotionally different than other rockets?
I think since it's been hype for what, 5 years now, like. Just seeing all the news reports on it, and then I've got a buddy at SpaceX who worked on, I think, launch pad engineering or something like that. So being like, oh, hey, my friend helped work on that. Like, that's really cool, because I'm also in the animation industry, so it's kind of the same way of seeing someone's name in the credits at the end of a Disney film.
Yeah.
Sure. So seeing like, oh, the rocket's in the sky, it worked. My friend helped on that.
Right.
So that was pretty interesting, or that was really cool to see. But as far as emotionally, yeah, definitely on the inside. I think I was too exhausted to cry, but I definitely was like, oh, there it goes. This is really cool. So.
This will be your first landing as well, right? Because you can't at Vandenberg. While they'll land the rockets, they do that out at sea. But here, you had not one but two boosters go back to landing zones 1 and 2. What was that experience like?
So I was trying to film the rocket when it went up, and then it kind of disappeared, and I honestly forgot that the boosters were coming back.
But they reminded you that they were coming back.
Yeah, I hear boom, boom, and then I was like, oh, look at the 2 orange dots in the sky that like disappeared really quick, and then they landed. But there's also no cell service, so I couldn't really check on whether or not they actually did land. So I was kind of in limbo, either waiting for Jerry to text me, oh, I'm fine now and not dying of a heart attack, or just waiting for something else to happen. But yeah, it was really cool to just kind of like see them just, oh yeah, that's still going on, I guess.
Jared, you talked in the news segment that your heart rate bumped up to 140 rhythms, beats per minute.
Yeah.
What was it? So you weren't there. You were here.
No, I was here.
You were watching the beautifully produced webcast? Yeah.
Yes, the beautifully produced webcast. The perfectly produced webcast.
Yeah.
So I was at work.
Good job.
I was at work and I had everything stopped at right at about 12:35. Nothing was happening. We all went into our room. First thing I did when I got in at work at 8:30 that morning was I grabbed our best computer and I set it up so that we could stream at 1080 on it. And I set that up like way before everything was set because I wanted to make sure everything was perfect because I wanted to get it and actually watch it as it was happening. And we got together and we had we wrote on our whiteboard where we put our operations stuff for the day. This is the time Falcon Heavy is supposed to launch. And okay, 15 more minutes. All right, here we go. No, okay.
Clock maintenance.
We're like, that's 15 minutes to the end of the window, and we're all standing around and we're all kind of going. Do you think? Hey, do you think it's gonna go? Hey, do you think it's gonna? Hey, do you think it's gonna go? How long do you think until it blows up? So, and one of my coworkers was like emphatic on like, I'm timing it until it detonates, and I was just like, okay, that's I guess that's one way to look at it. So it was really about 5 minutes before the launch when I was finally like, oh, maybe this is actually going to happen. And then I was like, well, if they scrap at this point, there's probably not enough time to recycle. So I guess I'll just we'll see what happens in the next 5 minutes. And then it's like, all right, T-minus 60 seconds. I'm like, okay, this is happening. This is getting ready to go. And then I finally saw the engines ignite, and I was like, okay, I guess, here we go. Here comes the moment of truth. Here comes the dice that are being rolled for the company to see what's going to happen. And then it finally took off, and I'm like, okay, they're committed. They're going for it.
Something's happening.
No turning back at this point. And I was like, and then
just turn it off. Just go back. Just land again.
Yeah, exactly. Just reverse it real quick.
Just turn them. Just throttle down, land. No big deal.
Put it in reverse.
Yeah, that's right. We could just deploy. We'll deploy the outer two legs. That'll hold it. So it was when they went to the wide shot of the launch pad, and I saw it going up, and it was at about T plus 15 seconds when I finally went, well, if it blows up at this point, that's okay. Because the expectations were I feel intentionally set low, so that just in case if something actually did happen, that it would. Well,
I mean, to be fair, it's the first flight of a brand new rocket, essentially, right? I mean, historically, new rockets don't fare so well.
Yeah, historically.
That's not space. Just industry-wide.
Yes,
right?
if you look at the 60s and 70s in terms of first flights of rockets, it ain't so great.
Well, even the Ariane 5.
Yeah, even the Ariane. Yeah, well, I mean, just make sure you put the software in correctly. They still need to learn that too. So yeah, with the way it works. So it's going up, and I'm like finally like calming down, I guess, if you will. I'm still like fully adrenalized, but finally we get to booster step, and that was just beautiful seeing that happen, and everything cleared out okay. And then I had my first like moment where my brain just wasn't working correctly, and I thought that the shot from one of the boosters was actually the center core, and I said, "Oh man, that's way off. Something's wrong." And then I was like, "Oh, wait a second, that's the booster core. That's not the center core."
That would be really scary.
Yeah, well, it did. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I went, Oh yeah, those are the boosters, not the center core. Because I'm not used to seeing boosters. There
were a lot of things on the screen at the same time.
Yes, there were. And my brain basically had to go. Okay.
To be fair, they were kind of in the shape of the rocket.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. That was done on purpose.
It momentarily freaked me out. And then we're all like, oh my god, I can't believe this is actually working. For almost that first part of ascent, because basically once booster step happened, it was just a regular Falcon 9 flying on its way. That's the way we kind of all perceived it at work. And then my next oh my gosh, oh no moment was with the booster landing when the accidental two feeds at the bottom were the same shot, and I literally went, they're going to the same landing zone. I was like, oh no, they're going to the same place. And then I was like, and then it cut to the shot of both of them. I was like, oh yeah, they're far apart. So yeah, That was it was an emotional roller coaster throughout the entire time. And then finally, hearing David Bowie being played loudly during a launch was probably my highlight for that. And I will be the first to admit that I was completely wrong in my perception about flying the Tesla and Starman. So
we'll put a pin in that, and I do want to loop back around that, because that's been a thing on Twitter, and I do want to talk about that. But Space Mike, the internet thought that you might have to have like CPR after the flight, right? I mean, what was it like for you? What was the emotional roller coaster for you like?
Kind of really mirroring a lot of the things that Jared said. I remember, that during the 60-second and 30-second call-outs, T-minus 30 seconds, and even the crowd there was just like, oh, you could feel their excitement building. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is actually going to happen. And it was an emotional roller coaster. It definitely got my blood pumping. And I was at work at the same time, and same thing. Everything stopped. It was on every television, and I was really surprised at how much people were watching this and seeing on Twitter how much it was blowing up. And I mean, even just the videos themselves that have been uploaded have gone viral. And the entire thing was incredibly fulfilling. I almost had like this kind of snarky attitude of just like, well, it's about time. I've been waiting for this for 5 years. At the same time, especially for today's show and talking about it, I'm really trying to channel John Young and stay cool and keep calm about it.
You don't have to. I feel, Mike, you've earned this moment. You're allowed. This is the moment you're allowed to freak out. Take the moment.
Take the shot, Mike.
Stop.
Oh my gosh. I am just so excited for the type of things that they can do with this now. I mean, and maybe we'll talk about this in just a second, but it seems like they have kind of scaled back their plans for what they want to do with Falcon Heavy. But I'm still super excited about what could potentially be done with it. And maybe at this point, it's not necessarily SpaceX that's going to do something crazy with Falcon Heavy, like, sending a landing mission to the moon or something like that. Maybe it'll be a customer who purchases Falcon Heavy to do something crazy. I feel like that, as long as they don't retire it in favor of the big Falcon rocket, that there could be so much cool stuff that could happen with Falcon Heavy. And I'm really excited, too, about the other future plans. I mean, when Falcon Heavy was first announced, the plan has changed so much for it. And I thought it was really interesting in the press conference afterwards how Elon Musk was saying how they almost canceled Falcon Heavy like 3 times or something like that. And I remember when it originally was announced they were going to have fuel cross feeds, that the fuel from the boosters would be feeding into the central core so that after the boosters had separated, the central core would start fully fueled. And of course, that's at some point probably got too difficult and was canceled. And even originally, the whole reusability concept was a little bit different at the time. So seeing from what the original ideas for this was and what the reality has become has been a really incredible journey. And Tuesday was a very emotional day, and seeing this actually go off and work for the most part I'm still a little bit numb, to be honest. That's kind of the feeling that I've had, other than the whole excitement and the feeling of fulfillment, is just numb. I cannot believe how viral this has gotten and how much this has spread and captured the attention of people. And it's like every time SpaceX does something big, it's like there's a whole new wave of people who dig into this and delve into this again for the first time. And I'm just so excited to see what the future can bring. And something else that I'm really excited about is the response from a lot of other companies in the space industry and even from individual engineers and scientists. And I feel like this is empowering a lot of people in the industry, and we're going to see SpaceX's competitors and everyone else in the industry start doing amazing things now that this has inspired everybody. And yeah, I'm just really excited for the future.
You know, to that point, Prismara in the chat room said, when I saw my mom again, she was talking about how she hasn't been this excited for a rocket launch since Apollo. And that is a little bit, you know, I kind of got that same vibe. Not that I was around during Apollo, but it certainly felt something like that. All right, so we'll move on to Carrie-Ann and myself. Now, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. We do kind of skirt around this in the show a little bit, but for those who don't know, both Carrie-Ann and myself are employed at SpaceX. So we do have to say at this point, our views and opinions are our own and not that of the company, and we are not representing the company in any way. Now, because we're employees...
Other than being awesome.
Other than being awesome.
Okay.
Now...
just want to be clear.
Because of that, we simply cannot go into any technical conversation whatsoever.
Yeah.
But we can talk about kind of some of the emotions that we had during that time. So we'll start with you. What was it? You were down on the floor, right, in front of Mission Control?
Yeah.
So you were in Hawthorne in front of Mission Control with that cheering crowd.
Quite.
Yeah. What was that like? What was it like to be in the thick of it right there?
So it's always really hot.
Yeah. Because it is a production floor. That's where they make the rockets.
There's just so many people. There's so many people. You're all crammed in together. It's kind of crazy pants. And it's of course it's loud. But at the same time, that sort of, you know, and nearly everyone here has talked about it, when you're surrounded by other people who are just as excited, the electricity that's in the air, that feeling, that excitement is crazy. Sure. The funny thing here, Vax sort of alluded, he had a different perspective on it than I did. He said, you know, with the delays, you have more anticipation. And for me, with more of the delays, I was like, well, we're not going today.
Yep.
Like we got within the 15 minutes of the end of the window, and I was like, well, I guess we're pushing it tomorrow.
Apparently, the reporters thought the same thing. They started changing their flights.
Yeah.
At the press site.
Yeah, we were hearing those sorts of reports, and I was like, well, that's cool. I guess I'm just going to wait for them to be like, hold. I really just, me personally, I was like, this is not happening. This is not going today. Neat, I guess. And we were counting down, and then you know, the being privileged enough to hang around enough engineers and really have a better understanding of the risks that are being taken with this particular flight. I started to sound a little bit more like Jared, of like, well, let's just hope it clears the tower, I guess. Like, because there were just so much. Weirdly, like Mike as well, like almost cynicism or disbelief that this was going to happen. And so at some point, I actually screamed out, I go, what is happening? Because I could not believe what I was seeing. I will say, though, again, it was so loud. And Vax was talking about the time clock, you know, moving. It was so loud. How loud was it? The glass at Mission Control was vibrating. And I know that's from the noise.
By the way, to be clear, this is in California, so that loudness is the crowd, not the rocket.
Correct.
The rocket's on the other coast.
It's just the people.
It's just
Right.
the people
Just the
screaming.
people.
Yes. The people who built that put their blood, sweat, and tears into that, screaming at this rocket, propelling it with their passion.
Right. And you know, nobody wants anyone banging on glass. So there's usually a good couple of feet swath right in front of the glass or behind the glass, depending on which perspective you're on, where nobody's there. So nobody's pushing on any glass at all.
Yeah,
but I looked up and I was like, those are going to go. The glass is shaking, which is just a really scary, crazy thing. I think I was a little bit more cognizant this time of what was really happening as opposed to the landing. That is such a blur to me. I realized, although I did have the sensation of my face is wet. I didn't realize I was crying. There was just like, it was all happening at once. It's just incredibly hot, incredibly loud. I thought the glass was going to break. My face was wet, and I didn't know what was happening. Like, it was everything all at once. It was absolute madness.
How would you compare it to the first time? Because you were there when SpaceX first landed a core.
Yeah.
Emotionally, how was it as compared to the very first landing?
I think, in a weird way, with the landing, there was much more hope. Man, I hope this works. I hope this works. I hope this works. I hope this goes. I hope, like, we've been trying so hard. Like, come on, you guys. Like, this is going to happen. And with Heavy, it's like, Jesus, please don't kill anybody. Like, it was a whole lot of, like, it just was...
To be clear, everyone was safe. There
Absolutely.
was no one nearby.
No, but, well, Starman. It was a slightly different feeling because it was, I just hope this works. I just hope this works for the landing. And for Heavy, it was like, man, this better go. Like, this better, like, I don't know what we're going to do. This is crazy. It was slightly different. It was slightly different. I think I was strangely more scared with the landing because I had seen. This is the main difference because with the landing it was like, well, we tried and it didn't work. 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 Heavy was like, well, here we go. Now what? Right? It wasn't like we tried and it didn't work. Tried and it didn't work. It was like I don't know. There's no precedence other than beautiful animations, right?
Sure.
But nothing. The only other precedence I have, and we were speaking about this a little while ago, was like Delta Heavy, possibly. It's like, and I mean that historically.
I was going to say it's inaugural test flight. There were problems.
Sure.
Right.
So,
I mean, So I didn't have. It wasn't quite as hopeful, if that makes any sense.
Sure. So I was up in the webcast booth because that's where I'm stationed, right? I do the live video for SpaceX, and it's a little bit different there because you're separated from everyone else, right? You're not down on the floor with everyone. You're not in the thick of it, but you have like every camera that you can think of, like every camera that's available for public, sitting right there in front of you. And I remember, like, we got into it was very similar, right? We kept the countdown kept sliding, clock maintenance due to weather, essentially, right? The upper atmosphere winds were too strong, and with a test flight, you want to make sure that you have the best chance of success. So slide to the right, slide to the right, slide to the right. And we got near the end of the window, and then you're kind of like, well, I mean, we have no more opportunities to slide, so I'm not sure what's going to happen here. But I was listening to the Weather Channel, and the range was saying, look, weather's trending in your favor, weather's trending in your favor, weather's trending in your favor. And on that last one, I'm like, this may actually happen. Weather's trending in the, like, you're watching the gig go down, you're just kind of waiting for it to get into that point where it's acceptable, and it got there. And then, the countdown was going, and we get under, the webcast goes live with the SpaceX on Stars, a little test shot starfish, which I always have a hard time saying.
It is a mouthful.
It is. It's really hard to say.
Starfish. But they make really great music.
We go live with that, and I'm like, okay, we're committed to something, right? We're going to tell people something. We've gone on the air now. And then we get into the intro sequence, and I'm like, all right, we're getting into like kind of those final moments. Fuel's being loaded. This rocket's coming to life at this point. It's
See, were you getting excited at that point? Because I was still in total denial.
It's a little bit. I wasn't in denial. It's a little bit different. So by that point, the moment we loaded fuel. Or started loading liquid oxygen and fuel, I'm like, okay, that means that we're committing to this, right?
Sure.
We're serious about actually trying to go.
Yeah, that kind of happened at my job too. I caught it on Twitter, and I went around and I was like, they're loading fuel, and everybody was like, oh,
yeah,
oh, they're committing. Okay.
And that's
so maybe this will happen today.
And you start to see the vehicle breathe at that point. The liquid oxygen turns to gaseous oxygen. You kind of get that runoff, and you kind of start you hear the kind of the creaking on the pad as things are expanding and contracting in the sun. And
you might have, but I feel like some of the rest of us didn't.
Yeah, no, it was way too loud out there for anyone to hear any of that. We do punch it to those speakers.
I didn't hear anything. I'm sure Vax didn't hear creaking. Sarah didn't hear creaking. Half of the panel right now did not hear creaking.
But it happened, and then we got down to like under 10 seconds, and at least in my chair, the crowd started counting along, and I thought to myself, oh no, because a rocket countdown is actually very hard. It's something that no one ever thinks of. You have to count at the bottom of the second, not the top of the second. So
but
you
the
have to
crowd
say
always counts about a second and a half before the second.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like 6. And you're like, damn it! What is happening right now?
Right. That was my concern. Was that like the crowd is starting to count, 19, and they don't know how 18, to count for a 17, rocket. 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. Right. And so now I'm like, well, do we take the crowd mics out so that we can get? I know who is on comm, and I know that she knows how to properly count a rocket down.
Right.
So do we only have? And then I'm like, oh, but we don't want to take the humanity out of it. So I was like, let it go. And we got lucky. The crowd ended up syncing up perfectly.
Yeah, magically.
Like at the end there, like from 5 down, it synced up. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. And then we hit 0, and it was like time froze.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, because you're waiting. In my role, at least, I'm not waiting for 0. I'm waiting for +0.
Right.
+0 is release. At that moment, we've committed to flight.
Right.
So now I need to know, like, what are we doing here? Are we, because there are thousands of sensors, right? There's thousands of things. And the rocket, if any one of them is off nominal, if it's out a little bit, that rocket won't launch. It's just going to be like, okay, I started the engines, whatever, we'll just stop here. We'll try again, tomorrow.
Right.
Or did it go, nope, that looked good, let's go. And that one from minus to plus felt like it lasted a full minute.
Wow.
I mean, it was just like, just all of time went, boom. And I'm watching them like, did it advance?
Well, and the dang thing is so freaking heavy. I mean, not to be punny, but sincerely, like, how many times have we looked at different rocket launches and it's like, wow, that just shoots right off the pad.
Yeah.
Or like, man, that takes forever off the pad. And when you're so fully invested in it, it's like, for the love of all things, I can't tell. And it was such a clear day. There was no like, oh yeah, no, that went past that cloud.
Yeah.
Like there was just no way.
I gotta say, when it hit T0, my boss behind me was like, "Whenever you're ready," and it was like, it was really great to hear that. And it was just like,
Whenever you're ready.
"Whenever you're ready." It's like, okay, here we go.
The clock hit T+1 second, and the webcast system said we've detected liftoff. Because that's the thing, right? The graphics on the screen, they're based on actual data. So it was like, yep, we've detected liftoff. And I went, all right. And it was, just like the controllers are like, turn to section, blah, blah, blah. The webcast is like, all right, turn your focus over to now the tracking cameras and the launch side of the configuration. And we went into that. And then it was, from there, everything started speeding up. Right, so went the opposite. So it went from super slow-mo to I don't know how we just got through those last 2 minutes felt like 10 seconds.
It's like I don't know how I got here, but we're just going to keep going.
Kind of, just boom, and we hit Bico, and I'm like, we're Bico. And like those tracking shots where you saw there was nothing like. With the 3 boosters, there was nothing like it. It was just absolutely incredible. It was, like you guys had said, it was just an emotional roller coaster for us. I'm nervous the entire time because at this point, we've realized in the control room, we now have the #2 most popular YouTube webcast ever.
I'm sorry, just slow down for a second and say that again.
Yeah, so during that webcast, so the magic number was 1.2 million, and that was the #2 webcast ever, and we blew through that, and by this time we're at like 2 million plus concurrent, not total concurrent. So there were over 2 million people watching at the same time on the YouTube channel, and we have those metrics up in the control room, just kind of looking at it, more to make sure that everything's working, looking at the error metrics. Like
we're still on air.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Right. And now at this point, I'm like, oh. Lots of people are watching this right now.
Don't screw up.
Kinda,
Don't screw up. Don't screw up.
Yeah.
What sort of pressure is that like when you're working in the AV room?
Not light. It's because the world is watching you, and it's you don't know what's going to happen, and it's important to give people the shots they want and choose the best shots all the time. And that's very hard. You're making split-second decisions, on and trying to figure out where you need to go next. So there's a lot of very intense communication in the control room at that time. Not angry, just intense. And there's a lot going on. It's incredible. It's incredible what happens behind the scenes. Unfortunately, that's about as much as I can talk about it. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And then we hit those LZ-1 landings. When we hit the LZ-1 footage from that camera, I was at Florida, and I was with my counterpart in Florida, and we're at LZ-1. This is
before.
This is before. This is why I wasn't on the show a couple weeks ago, because I was in Florida doing this. We were like, well, LZ-1 is here and LZ-2 is here. I think we're going to be able to clear from this one camera. I think we can canter it this way to get. I'm pretty sure this is the shot we want, and it was just like the animation. Like it came into that shot, and I thought to myself, We got that right!
Well, Ben, not only was it like the animation, if you go and look at the single frames of the animation versus the real thing, you guys got the clouds right. They were exactly the same. It was crazy.
That was...
a picture on video on Twitter with the simulation and the real thing underneath of it. One picture. And it looks almost like the same shot. The clouds are in exactly the same positions. It's really crazy.
It was incredible, and we saw that. And I wanted to linger there, but we couldn't. There's so much more stuff going on. So,
but wait, there's more.
Well, kind of like we got that. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Stay in this shot. Oh, wait, we have more rocket going on. So we had to go back over there, and it was very stressful roller coaster ride, and then being able to go to the Starman shots afterwards and getting clearance to air those live for 4.5 hours of live views of Starman in space was incredible, and it was it was absolutely awesome.
They streamed those live in the press site, in the main building of the press site.
Oh, cool.
And so they were up on the big monitors, and we literally sat there and stared at them for an hour.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, everybody was just like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life.
So did we. Now let's go back to that, because there has been a lot of debate, mostly in the scientific community, being all angry at SpaceX for not flying a scientific payload. Which, to be fair, that's not what happens on maiden flights, right? On maiden flights, you fly a block of concrete. That's what you fly. All right, name one that didn't.
Atlas V. On its first flight.
What did it fly?
Hotbird 6. It was a communication satellite. So.
All right.
Delta 4 also flew payload for Eutelsat.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well for him, did it?
What, Delta 4?
Delta 4, not heavy. Delta 4 heavy.
Delta 4 Heavy flew a demo sat, which didn't work out as well. Delta 3 also flew a payload, although it did blow up. But I want to qualify this. Even though Delta 3 blew up on its first flight, they still had a commercial payload for the second flight as well. That blew up as well. So, but
Falcon 9.
But it's not. It's. I was going to say it's not.
That's.
You didn't say which ones flew a scientific payload. You said which ones didn't fly a block of concrete. Falcon 9.
You get the idea, though.
Yeah.
Falcon 1.
Actually, in the
Falcon 1 had a payload on it.
Jason 519 in the chat room.
Yes.
Jason 519 in the chat room. Electron.
Did the very first Electron actually have real stuff? They had their own.
The first one that got to orbit?
No, not the first one that got to orbit. That's their second flight.
Well, the first test, I feel like it had a couple CubeSats or something on it.
Did it? It may have. If only we knew people at Rocket Lab.
Ariane 5.
Yeah.
Ariane 5 had Cluster, which was a scientific mission on its first flight.
That didn't work so well for them either.
No, it didn't.
I think there's an ongoing theme, right? So, all right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
That's
fair.
That's exactly the point. So that's typically why you don't fly anything of importance, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, great example of that. Antares had a mass simulator on its first flight.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So, you were fairly against the Roadster.
Yes, I was.
What changed your mind?
So I thought it was stupid because it just seemed like a complete waste of a perfectly good payload capability. And I felt like there should have been some sort of outreach attempt to universities or something like that to try to fly CubeSats, because there's tons of universities that always want to fly something and they don't want to wait years and pay millions of dollars in order to fly their CubeSat payload. But once I saw it in real time, live as it was happening, I went, wow, this is awesome. Like, this is so cool. This is actually cooler than I was expecting it to be.
Dota has it up, right? That's actual footage.
Yeah. And I got to say, at that point, just seeing it during the launch, I'd softened up a little bit to it. But after it, seeing the response just from people who could care less about spaceflight in their everyday life, really getting into it, sharing it everywhere, talking about it. Like when I picked up my breakfast at Starbucks the next day, the baristas asked me about it. These are people that don't ask me about space or anything. So just seeing the response, and especially the awe from people of it and the enjoyment that people got out of it. That completely changed my opinion about it. It was no longer stupid. It was pretty darn awesome that they were able to do that. And I feel like if they had just launched the Tesla by itself, we wouldn't really, be feeling that way.
It was Starman that you
It was
think...
Starman in the Tesla, because that's something tangibly human. You can project yourself into that.
Yeah. One hand on the wheel, one hand on the
and
window.
get that feeling of what it's like. That is what really, to me, that's probably the most important part of that in making that something that people are going to connect to, is that it wasn't just a car that got launched. There's Starman sitting there, and like that could, you could actually put yourself there and feel like, I'm experiencing this with Starman as it's doing.
Without being too cheesy, would you say it's like our hope for the future kind of got launched? Like you were able to project your, like, this is a thing that can happen now?
I feel like in the past couple of years, I feel like the past couple of years have been quite pessimistic. And we haven't had our Apollo 8 moment yet, where 1968 was a horrendous year. And then Apollo 8, right around Christmas, a lot of people argued that Apollo 8 saved 1968. I don't think that this is necessarily something that saves the past couple of years, if you will, but this has definitely been something that everyone was able to experience at the same time and come together and kind of enjoy.
Can I piggyback off of that?
Sure.
Yeah, so when I told my mom, I posted this stupid picture of myself on Facebook. I was like, haha, guess where I am? And then my mom was like, where are you? I said, I'm in Florida for the Falcon launch. And instead of her getting mad because I was skipping school for it, she's like, that is so cool, oh my God. And another thing that I thought was pretty interesting as well, too, is she didn't know about the car thing at all. She was just like, I've heard about the rocket because you don't stop talking about Elon. So I found out about the car when it deployed, and she's like, what? There's a car in there that's ridiculous. And just like seeing her reaction to it, like being there as someone who, I don't remember when she was born, so I'm just trying to remember how many rocket launches she's seen. But just coming from my mom, I guess, hearing like, that's such a cool thing that you're able to experience that, as well as the rest of the world being able to see this car literally just drifting through the galaxy. I think it opens up a lot of doors as well, too, for like education stuff down the line. Like, what if there's a cartoon series called like The Adventures of Starman and the Cherry Car or something?
That's great.
I don't know. Now I need to get
already in the works.
Quick, copyright it.
Trademark it.
The Adventures of Starman continue next week. Vax, did you see something similar? Did you see like a change in attitude or atmosphere from non-space geeks over Falcon Heavy?
A little bit. It certainly has engaged people really significantly. Like, I just went over to the SpaceX YouTube channel, and this video has been viewed 13 million times. Okay? So the public is engaged. And the fact that this car is probably, I'm going to guess, if it wasn't Elon's car, the fact that it's Elon's car probably makes it worth more money, but it's probably worth about, I don't know, $200,000. I mean, it would cost $200,000 to engineer a mass simulator, and that would be the requirements in the paperwork, right? To engineer a mass simulator, it would go on top of this in place of the car. So the amount of money that it costs to fly the car versus flying a block of concrete is probably actually somewhat comparable. Granted, you guys put some really great camera rigs up there and gave us these great shots. That wasn't trivial. And I'd love to hear some of the story, maybe the story of, how you actually decided to do that. And the fact that somebody put his arm, just up on the, just cash, we'll just go into Mars,
I do that in my Jeep, so, that's why I connected with it. So
right, it's such a human-looking thing. It's just great. The casual arm out the window thing just kills me. And the fact that you were able to keep the arm up there, they were able to keep the arm up there through the launch, that's impressive. There's got to be some little engineering there. It's kind of somewhat interesting. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I can't talk to any of that. I will say that I was going to say there are some incredible people that worked on that. And they deserve all your kudos. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't speak to that, nor can Carrie Ann. But yeah, it was awesome.
I would like to say, if you have the opportunity, suggest at the SpaceX PAO that they make that story public. So I think that it would really engage people. I think it's a very interesting. There's got to be a lot of human aspects of that story that would be very interesting to hear, and especially since it's caught people's attention so much. I mean, it's a really big deal that you engage the public at that level. 13 million YouTube views on a 4-hour video where nobody says anything.
That's right. There's no music. That's really There's no sound whatsoever. Yep.
God, I love space.
Right. Yeah. Right. When we were at so right before launch, I had to go set up cameras, and microphones and everything. So I was actually out of the press building for like an hour before the launch, and like I said, it was behind the countdown clock. So every now and then I'd kind of sneak around in front and see, okay, we're at T-minus 20 minutes, or we're at T-minus 18 minutes, or by the time we got down to about T-minus 10 minutes and we were in that 15-minute window, we're like, looks good, they're probably going to go, and we could hear the crowd counting down that down from 10 on people's phones, just with this phone speaker outside at the press. Everything else was pretty quiet. We couldn't really hear what was going on, and we didn't know it was going right until we saw the rocket move. That's when we could really tell. Once it moved, then we're like, hey, this happened. Of course, and then you can't hear it for another 10 or 15 seconds or something. It's more than that. It's going on 20 seconds, right? So it's a pretty long sound delay. And if you listen to my audio, Tim Dodd is his commentary in the background is really fun. He had video. He was streaming off of his phone, and he had on 4G, right? And he's getting like 10 frames per second, right? The audio's going through, but the video's like kind of like that. It's every 10 seconds, getting a frame through.
To be fair, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, moves about that fast anyway. It's hard to, just visually, it looks like he stutters like that because he just moves really quickly.
Blur Tim's.
Yes.
Yeah, he was having so much fun. He had 200,000 views on his live video that's, at 10 frames a second or something.
Nice.
So, yeah. The public engagement and people look into this and watching, like you said, Ben, you had millions of concurrent, views watching the live launch broadcast. It was really an engaging, interesting thing from that perspective. So,
Beth BEF from the chat room says, Vax is right. I think people don't get how important this was for public interest in the future of spaceflight. Yeah, I think there was a lot that happened here. Not just the world's most powerful operational rocket, but just engaging the public and doing something that really got people excited about going to space and exploring the cosmos again.
Yeah,
I think it was an incredible moment.
Really quickly, Mike, if I remember correctly, even though we kind of joke that you're sort of the SpaceX fanboy, if I remember correctly, you also were not like a gigantic fan of the Tesla being the payload. Is that correct?
Yeah, I spoke on that a little bit earlier. Yeah, when I first heard that they were going to use to launch a Tesla, at first I thought it was a joke. And even as the confirmations came out, I just was like, but why though? Like, I guess that's cool. Like, I guess, but yeah, it's actually seen it. And I think once we saw the images too, when they were integrating it into the payload fairing, and seeing that was just like, oh, that actually does look kind of cool. And then actually seeing it happen, actually seeing it in space. And I didn't even know about Starman until maybe a day or two before the launch itself. I might not have, yeah, it had to have been like a day or two before the launch itself. I knew beforehand, but yeah, and I agree completely with what Jared and what you guys were saying about how that really made that moment so much better, how you could really humanize it and put yourself in that position of just chilling on your way to Mars. So, yeah, but at first I did think that it was really silly, and I almost worried that it would be a reason for people and the internet to make fun of SpaceX, but I'm really happy that it's been the complete opposite.
Cool.
And actually, I think that's a really great point to bounce us to break and go into comments from last week's show. So I'd love to know what you, the community, think. What was the Falcon Heavy launch for you? Tell us your story in the comments. What was the emotional roller coaster you went on? I'm excited to read your stories and see what it felt like for you, and what you thought of the payload and what you thought of the whole experience. Did this get you more excited about spaceflight? How was it for you? Leave your comments anywhere you'd like, and we'll bring them up in next week's show. And speaking of, we're going to take a quick calendar break because we got more than launches that would fit in the first calendar. And when we come back, comments from last week's show. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
Web show.
And welcome back. Now, before we get started with comments from last week's show, I did want to give a shout out to all of the patrons of tomorrow who helped to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These, dang it, the citizens of tomorrow.
Yeah, and it is wrong.
And I yell at them. Yeah. And welcome back to tomorrow. Now, before we get started with this segment, I did want to give a shout out to all of the citizens of tomorrow who have got to make this specific segment of this episode happen. These are people who have contributed $10 or more to this specific episode. We also have our orbital citizens. They've contributed $5 or more to the specific episode. And our suborbital citizens who have contributed $2.50 to this episode. To find out how you can help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow, head on over to makersupport.com/TMRO. I'll just leave it at that one. All right. So, Capcom, last week, what do we have?
Last week we had Gilmore Space Technologies, which was really cool, with one Lisa Stojanovsky. Lisa, thank you for doing the fill in there. One of those things of like, we can never get enough of Lisa as far as I'm concerned.
And now we don't get her for like 8 months.
Right. So
well,
it's like,
kind of. She's going to try to do...
get as much Lisa as you can between Tomorrow's Space and Tomorrow's Science, and then...
There were some questions as to what happens with Science. We're actually going to hand the baton off to you, Jared.
Yeah.
So Jared will be hosting Science in Lisa's stead. And so you'll be doing Science for the next 8 months with Jade and Athena.
Sounds fun to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
All right.
Anyway, so there you have it. So our first comment comes off of YouTube from SP123100, which again should be 123-1000. Says, I'm going to say it every time because I still think that's what it should be. Totally agree. 83 consecutive successful Ariane 5 flights versus the yet untested Falcon Heavy. Hopefully this anomaly was an easily correctable software glitch.
Well, the now tested Falcon Heavy.
Well, yeah, but at the time,
100% success rate on that rocket.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Dude, this stuff is hard.
It is, but like loading the wrong. What happened? They loaded the wrong software profile, like the wrong set profile.
That's what they did.
So they like went to the wrong place, right? That's essentially what they did.
Yeah.
And so that's why they lost tracking, because the tracking antennas are tracking where it's supposed to be, but the rocket's going over here, so it doesn't have link.
Yeah, there was actually on Twitter, there was a great post that somebody did that showed photos of the previous, the Ariane 5 launch before that and the one with the anomaly, and it showed that it had rotated, so it was already rolling incorrectly off of the launch pad, like just like half a second after liftoff. It was already incorrect, so... Yikes!
So,
Yikes!
Yeah.
That's right.
Yikes!
Well, and then there was the Russian launch where there was
which one?
No, but there was
the one
Proton.
Oh, the Proton.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Proton.
Actually,
they installed the accelerometers upside down?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows better, please speak in my behalf. Yeah, no, exactly. Where up was down and down was up, and things just went literally sideways.
The Proton just did what it was told.
This is true.
It was just interpreting the data just 100% wrong. So...
Well, 180 degrees wrong.
Yes. A couple months ago that launched from Vostochny, it was programmed for launching from Baikonur, so...
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Man, that's Yeah, that's crazy, bands.
Wow,
So
I
this
didn't
stuff
realize
is
how
hard.
many of these have happened like that.
This
Yeah.
is hard. This is really hard.
I mean, even the first Ariane 5 launch was a software glitch in it. They were using Ariane 4 software on the Ariane 5 to see if that would work, and
not so much.
No, not so much. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up.
This one comes also off of YouTube from Count Artha, or Count Zappa, if you will. I would think that Ariane's launch site is also a big deal, since James Webb is going to a solar Lagrange point. Being close to the equator makes the plane change less tricky.
I mean, yes. So first off, the mistake.
Hopefully, because I understood about half of that question.
The mistake they
We're
made
coming.
happens once.
Okay.
Right? You don't make that mistake twice.
No.
Right? So
Hopefully.
Yeah, you don't make that mistake twice.
I mean-
Ariane Space will not make that mistake again. Right? That's they found ultimately that's a problem in procedure. They found the problem. They'll build procedure to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yes.
I feel like that's a safe assumption. And then, I mean, the big thing was James Webb Space Telescope also going up on an Ariane 5, right? So that's the same rocket that went to the wrong location. Now, the satellites that were on that other rocket, they were able to maneuver themselves into the correct location. Would James Webb have enough maneuvering capability to fix something like that?
I do not believe James Webb would have enough propellant to do that. Yeah, Vax could probably speak to that a little bit more than I could.
That would be a lot. James Webb is heavy. I doubt it. I don't know, but that would be a lot.
Yeah. So I don't know. Ariane 5 has been a rock solid workhorse for a while, and despite this issue, I don't think that we really have any concern for JWST. Unless anyone else who disagrees, I feel like JWST is fine.
I mean, I'm probably going to be, my heart rate will probably hit 140 again for James Webb.
Well, that's because it's
because there's a lot riding on it, and then
literally,
yes. And then another fun thing is that James Webb's deployment is going to happen over weeks as well. So it's
you're
not
going to be
just,
an elevated heart rate for a
I'll
while.
have a very elevated heart rate for a very long period of time. Nobody talked to me during this time period. I can't.
7 weeks of terror.
7 weeks of terror down a sec. Oh, man. There's a lot that has to go right with James Webb Space Telescope.
Maybe we should, since we did a live webcast of the plants growing, we should do a live webcast of my heart rate throughout the James Webb deployment series. So
that'd be kind of incredible.
Yeah.
Next up, Capcom.
Next up, also off of YouTube from a Thomas Cheney. Or Cheney, says, CubeSats are intended to be sort of a shipping container type solution for space, but they're obviously not suitable for every mission.
A shipping container? I'm not sure I agree with that. Do you?
I feel like CubeSats are
kind of.
They're modular.
Modular, I'll buy, but
right.
shipping container doesn't seem quite right.
No.
But
I think that's what he's trying to say, though.
Right.
They're a standardized thing that you can put your satellite into. And they're certainly not appropriate for everything because the science requirements of the various telescopes or whatever you would put on board, if you have very stringent pointing requirements, it's very hard to make a very, very little satellite point really accurately, right? So that just requires a bigger bird, and it requires more sensitive instruments than you can, and more accurate actuators than you can buy on a CubeSat, and just sometimes it takes things that big.
And interplanetary missions, I mean, you can use CubeSats. I think there's an upcoming mission from JPL.
Yes, Insight. It's
the communication sats.
Mars
right?
Cube 1. They're both going to be acting as communication relays to be giving real-time data.
Which is actually really cool that they're using CubeSats for that. It's a really great kind of technology demonstrator.
Yeah, they're 3x2 unit CubeSats, by the way. So
so
6 unit CubeSats. So. They're good size. Those are some big CubeSats. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're still CubeSats, right?
Yes.
They're just essentially a bunch of cubes stacked together.
Yeah.
But still really cool that they're doing that. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other interplanetary CubeSats. Like Light Sail's the closest thing I could think of. That's not really.
Some stuff's been designed, but nothing's been launched yet in interplanetary.
There are some CubeSats that are supposed to fly on Space Launch System Exploration Mission 1 to the Moon. So, and there's also another one called Nia Scout, which is supposed to go to a near-Earth asteroid as well.
But so in those cases, why use the CubeSat other than we're trying to use a CubeSat?
I think it's more technology demonstration, just to
Okay,
show,
that's
hey,
fair.
we actually could do a fast rendezvous with a potentially hazardous near-Earth asteroid, and we could do it with a CubeSat.
Yeah, not
because
spend,
that's going to be a lot easier to get, a lot faster and a lot cheaper. Which I know, saving the world, we have to do it as cheap as possible. But that could, potentially work, with that there. Oh, here comes the asteroid. We've got 10 years. Quick, build a CubeSat. Launch it as fast as we can at it, and let's do it. So there's also some other demonstrations that are happening with that as well.
That's fair. I mean, you do have to start somewhere, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not actually anti-CubeSat. It's just, use the appropriate tool for the appropriate thing, right? Sometimes it feels like we're trying to make CubeSats do things they're not really good at. But frankly, if you can take this technology and shrink it down to CubeSats, that's actually a good thing. So I should. Awesome. Okay, next up. Oh, yeah, how are you going to pronounce this one? This is legitimately the username on YouTube. This is copy and pasted exactly. This is not a rendering error.
Yes.
This one comes off of YouTube. Go to the slate. Thank you. Although Sarah sitting right next to me goes, it kind of looks like ISS. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of does, actually. I don't know. I think I was going to go with box.
Right?
Cube. I'm not really sure.
Which Illuminati branch is this with?
Square.
Wait, is this ITAR redacted on YouTube?
No, this is like legitimately. Anyway, this person.
YouTube didn't know how to deal with it either, so there was no icon for it. So our box is empty, and then there's 4 other empty boxes.
This or maybe this is our first AI comment.
Oh yeah, it could be.
This.
Machine learning synergistic blockchain.
But they had a decent comment, which is why I included it. It says, really strange choice of names for rockets. Eris, the goddess of discord and chaos, and Ariel, the water spirit. I mean, I wasn't here for that interview, and so I don't know how that particular topic came up.
Well, I mean, I can understand Ariel if your rocket's expendable, being water spirit. Where's the rocket going to end up?
Or they're not launching from the water, right?
Oh, I
because that would be cool too.
Yeah, that'd be pretty neat. So maybe we should have those machine learning things that have been naming stuff like colors and guinea pigs. We should get it to start naming rockets.
Totally.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of fun.
Totally.
Well, he did say that they were just kind of working names right now, and that they were going to hold some sort of like contest or poll or whatever for
like Rocket Big Rock Face.
That's exactly better name suggestions.
Fly McFly Face.
No.
Exploding and explode face.
Let's not.
Yeah. Goat internet.
Hey, I mean, you never know.
And last up.
Money on who can tell me who actually made this comment. This one comes from TMRO.
Not me.
It says, for those wondering, Ben Credible has failed to kill the plants of tomorrow. This is the future of farming, people.
That's true.
I have indeed. Oh my God.
That's a lot of lettuce.
You guys can't see it from there, but it in After Dark we'll spin one of these cameras around. That's
Has anyone
a lot
seen
of lettuce.
Little Shop of Horrors? Yes.
I feel like when he just said, "Oh my God," that you just looked at those for the first time.
In like weeks. Yes, absolutely.
It's true.
To be fair, me too.
Oh,
I was over there
they're
today.
right there, just out of my view the entire show. I haven't paid any attention to them whatsoever.
I've been watering them. That's scary. We need to do something about that. And I know when Lisa was here, she did have the salad of tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, she did. Everyone, I'd like to thank you so much for watching. That's our show this week. I also want to thank our ground support citizens for helping to make this show possible. To find out how you can help support the show with crowdfunding, head over to makersupport.com/TMRO. That's all for us this week. We'll see you next week. And After Dark is up next.
Vax has got bass. Mike and Jared have got percussion.
Yeah.
But Vax is doomed.
Vax was on the stand-up bass. Very nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, you're all a bunch of nerds. Y'all a bunch of nerds.
Dorks. They look like a bunch of dorks.
All right, so my new IFB is definitely very form-fitting. Oh my God. Ow.
Yeah, mine is a little too big right at the end here.
Yeah, right as
Oh my God, that hurts.
I know.
You want to share buds?
No, but thank you. I appreciate
So
that.
we actually don't use proper IFBs, which is internal foldback or internal feedback, depending upon which company you talk to. We actually use IEMs, in-ear monitors, because I don't like the look of the air coil that a traditional IFB uses. So
if I twist it a little bit differently, it feels a little bit better.
Yeah,
But the way I
I just have
had
mine.
it,
Yeah, just like
slightly out.
I'm really comfortable with mine.
Good.
So
Good. Says the man who cringes every time he's got to put it in his ear.
well,
so
I mean, I'm not a big
that's saying
fan of
lot.
putting it in my ear, but once it's in my ear, I'm comfortable.
Good.
Oh yeah, mine is just a little bit extra rubby.
No comment. Can't. I'm just gonna be over here.
Yeah. Oh, Vax, thank you so much for taking time out of your
Dude,
Saturday to come on the
seriously.
show and sending us all the footage.
Also, Vax,
Yeah.
some people in the chat room were asking if you have your own YouTube channel that they could see your footage.
I do. It's called Untied Music Studio, like untied shoes. Untied Music Studio.
Perfect.
And
Nice.
you can find it from my Twitter feed, which is Vax Headroom, of course.
Yeah. Nice.
And I posted a couple of videos up from that, and Donna showed some of those in the middle of some of the pre-launch shots were the ones that I had actually shot from around the pad. I went out with the rest of the photographers as they were setting up their remote cameras that would take pictures or video as the rocket was launching. But I was just shooting B-roll for you guys, so I was actually there as a reporter for tomorrow,
Which I appreciate
And,
in a number of for a number of reasons.
Thanks.
And I also appreciate that you said B-roll, because we were looking at your video earlier, and I was just kind of doing some things, and I'm like, who's that dude who's not shutting up in the background? And then like something happened, and all of a sudden Ben goes, oh, that's Tim Dodd. And I go, oh, for that, yeah, that is. That's totally
for
Tim
Pete's
Dodd.
sake.
Like, and he just did like the entire time.
Well,
so
he was
you were like,
webcasting, to be fair.
no, I know, but I didn't.
but he was doing that for an hour.
Right. Poor Vax is like, yeah, and he's like 20 feet away. I'm like, you can hear him from 20 feet away? Good gods.
You know Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. He gets
do.
excited.
I do.
He gets
And
excited about
Well,
these things.
Hilarious.
He's
but
so excited.
I love that Vax is like, I mean, I was there for you, but I was doing B-roll. Like, good, because I don't use any of that audio. Tim never shuts up. I love Tim Dodd.
Yeah, well, the other B-roll that I posted of the pre-day shots, actually, there's no audio in there at all. That audio that's all silent.
Right.
I did that deliberately. The microphones that I was using are Nakamichi, an old Nakamichi cardioid condenser mic, and it has a hypercardioid, so it's like, I don't know, 2.5 feet long. The microphones are like this.
Dang.
And about
Right.
at a spread angle
So-
like so or so.
Yeah, like they're like
Spread.
45,
Yeah,
plus or
yeah.
minus 45 degrees. So yeah, they're really narrow, and you can't hear anything off axis. I mean, they drop off like 50 dB off axis, but
wow.
they'll take a very high pressure level. Like you can use those microphones inside of a bass drum.
Oh wow.
So yeah, they'll take a
Dang.
really high sound pressure level, which is why I use them for rocket launches. So
Yeah.
the Antares launch that I shot last fall, and this one, and the Delta IV Heavy, EFT-1, all came out really good. I'm really happy with all those audio recordings.
I may have lost a few pad mics.
Can't imagine.
SPL
That's
on
weird.
launch.
No way.
Yeah,
What's
I'm
louder,
sure.
Falcon Heavy or Tim Dodd?
Ooh.
So,
Poll, internet poll.
so I felt.
Falcon Heavy's longer. Tim Dodd burns longer.
There you go. I feel.
Yeah, right.
I felt really
He's more
bad
like an
for-
ion engine.
Yeah. I felt bad. I mean, at least Vax knew what he was getting into, going down to the media site. And, as Sarah had kind of alluded to, there's no Wi-Fi down there.
Yeah.
Like it's
There's at the media site.
Sure, but it's like an animal
You're right.
sanctuary, right? Around these rocket pads, which is crazy, but I mean brilliant, but crazy.
Yeah, everyone's like, I'm going to use my cell phone. And
Right, and you're like,
no,
no,
you
you're
are not.
Good luck with that.
to Kennedy, and then on the way back, my friend and I, who I went with, we had to literally ask people, like, can you drive us back?
Back
yeah.
somewhere where we have cell service. Yep.
Yeah, because it's.
And then
Yeah.
eventually, since the traffic was so long, getting back from, I guess, the Playa Linda area back to Tustin, Tustinville, is that what it's called?
Titusville.
It was so long, and we had a flight to catch that eventually we just had to get out of the car and walk back because it was just so
that's
crazy. And then people
crazy.
so there's like a fork because over at Playa Linda there's like the beach entrance and then there's Kennedy and there are police there and you couldn't go either way. And funny enough, even if you were walking away from your car, there's a cop that was like, "Stop walking, return to your vehicle." It's like, dude, we're just walking to the bathroom. Like, Jesus, like, chill. And then, so there was another road that went back down to Titusville, and so many people were leaving to go back to the main parking area by, like, there's a bridge or something, but there are two roads, and they kept, like, racing each other, but eventually it caused such a traffic jam that cars just stopped moving. And so walking was faster, which is pretty ridiculous, but it was still like an hour-long walk to go back to Titusville.
Oh, yeah, easy.
Titusville's, and that's the other thing for those who have not been down to Cape Canaveral, there's nothing nearby.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, like...
Sure there is. There's water and alligators and, like, birds under protection. Yeah, there's all that kind of stuff for sure.
Right. There's not
it.
infrastructure. Like the nearest city is Titusville, which I believe is 10 miles away.
16.
Something like that. Yeah. You know, they may not be the nearest city because there's the little area where
like Cocoa
is, Merritt Island. That might be closer actually, but it's still pretty far away. So yeah, you wanna do anything, you're driving for a bit.
Well, and out at the press site, there were over 400 credentialed media out there.
That's
so era kind of numbers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it really was. The PAO, the NASA PAO people who were sitting in the press, building. SpaceX PAO was running the show, and they did a stupendous job. Hats off to those guys. They did just great. But the NASA PAO people were just kind of sitting there hanging out, and so you could go talk to them. They were like, yeah, we haven't seen stuff like this in a long time. EFT-1 was about that kind of level of interest, but not that much. Yeah, it was really cool.
So Vex, PAO is Public Affairs Officer. They're basically the marketing arm of NASA, so to speak.
Yeah.
Vex, you have a very interesting perspective because Ben thought that you had gone to a couple of shuttle launches, but you said specifically you had only been to STS-135, which was the last shuttle launch, and now you were here for Falcon Heavy both times at the media site. So
right.
So you said there was about that many people in the media building, but what was the rest of the foot traffic at the media site? Because when we watched, because you were with us when we watched STS-135 together,
it was insane in the membrane.
It was
so
crazy.
Insane.
It was crazy. But what you see what I'm saying? Like, what did that area? Because I don't think there was a tweet up for that because this wasn't a NASA thing for that. What was the rest of the foot traffic? Around outside, right? Like by the time clock and all that other fun stuff.
There wasn't very many people at the press site. A lot of people were out at the causeway. They took buses full of people out to the causeway, and then there was...
it's better viewing at the causeway. It looks better.
Sure, yeah. And a lot of... And then they also took people to Exploration Tower, which is on the south side of Cape Canaveral, actually... more out in a public area on the north end of Cocoa Beach. So they had leased like a whole bunch of space in Exploration Tower.
That's cool.
And the SpaceX PAO people took reporters out there. So there was a lot of people who were elsewhere trying to, specifically if they were trying to capture footage, they were trying to capture the landings.
Right.
Oh, sure. Because it was such a, it was going to be quite a spectacle if it worked right, which it did. So that was really cool.
Go ahead.
So there wasn't very many people at the press site. There was probably only 50 people around. There was not that many. Yeah. And then they had the visitor center had sold tickets to an area adjacent to where the press site was, kind of as you're viewing the rocket off to our left. And there was several hundred people there.
Gotcha.
Is that over by the firing room, the old NASA firing room?
Don't know where that is.
Oh, you know what? I know where it is. It's the...
it's that newer building.
It's right along the turn basin.
No,
it's right adjacent.
Yeah, you turn right to go into the press site, but you can actually turn left into that one area that they started filling up for 135.
That's it.
Yeah. So it's not by the firing room. It's on the other side.
Right.
But there was there was CBS. There was people there from CBS in Florida today, and the tops of those buildings where they have some of the buildings at the press site have like rails around them. You can go up on the roof. Those buildings were all packed, and people doing a lot of pickup stuff. Lots and lots of probably 15 or more media trucks there with big antennas and satellite dishes and all that kind of stuff, and people running commentary.
Yeah, those buildings are
cool.
scary. I got word.
I've been up on the CBS building. It's a little scary.
I got word from some people that the cast members at Disney World were allowed to be off, step away from their job for a hot minute. I mean, if they were in the middle of something, they couldn't, obviously, but they were allowed to go view it if they wanted to, just sort of really go backstage and watch some things. I also got word that the marketing sort of company inside of Disney is called Yellow Shoes. They're located a little bit off of Disney Springs, if anybody's familiar with that area, and they were also internally broadcasting the SpaceX webcast, which I thought was really cool. Got a couple of really interesting shots from there.
It's good to know Disney was watching my stuff.
Yeah, Disney.
Not just me; it's a team of people.
No, I know it was, but I thought that was really that's really nice and kind of cool. That whole everybody coming together sort of situation of Disney World. Disney doesn't have to do that, right, for their people. But they're like, look, if you're interested, just, you can step outside, watch some stuff, and come back in, which I thought was really, really cool.
Why aren't any rides running?
Right.
I want to go on Space Mountain. I don't understand.
I know. Could you imagine? Oh, man. That would be crazy pants.
What's that noise? Too far away. You wouldn't really.
No, you couldn't hear it.
No, but that's.
I have friends down in Melbourne and Palm Bay. And they couldn't hear it from there because the wind was pretty strong out of the south, so it was blowing away from them. But I did see Pete rise it. I stopped and saw Pete and Karen and the girls down there. They're doing fantastic. They just moved to a new house and really, really nice. And that's great.
For those who don't know, Pete, so TMRO funds Launch Library, which is what we use to run our calendar. And then if you've got an app on your phone that lists off launches, there's a 90% chance that they use the Launch Library API to pull that data for your phone app. And Pete is the programmer who made all of that go. He also helped us when we were known as Space Vidcast down in Florida actually do live space shuttle launch coverage. And I believe he still has the high back chairs that have the Space Vidcast template on them. The director's chairs that we used that we would sit on for said launch coverage.
I didn't see them when I was there. They're probably there. I didn't ask him about them.
Yeah. That's some old school stuff.
He did have them.
Pete is awesome. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, cool.
We did talk about the Roku channel, too, which is...
that's right. The Space Vidcast / Now Tomorrow Roku channel, which I don't think about too much because we don't have a Roku anymore. But it should still be running.
Yeah.
He said it's still operational,
I love it.
And he'd like somebody to take it over, so...
I bet.
I'm sure. He's got a lot on his plate.
That's funny. I don't want to kick Vax out, but I want to make sure that we are respectful of Mike's time if he needs to go.
We do need to get Mike doing his spacey potty thing. So why don't we do that really quick? And then Vax, do you want to hang on for a little while longer, or do you want to?
What are you talking about? I don't have anything else going on.
Well, let's.
That's right, that thing.
At a minimum,
in that case, let me take a quick break, and then let's come back and get that done. Sorry.
Okay, cool, that's fine. Cool. Yeah.
Be right back.
Hey, do you have the footage, Dudda? Do you have the footage of Tim Dodd and I giving a shout out to the?
Oh, that's right. We didn't hear that.
Citizens?
Yeah, there's shout out footage.
I was kind of proud of that. It came out good. It's fun.
It's not lettered in the rundown, so I'll have to add it.
I don't think it's labeled as shout out or anything like that. I think it's.
I think it's just like Tim and Emery or something. I uploaded it. I don't know. I thought it was fun. I actually jumped into, he had to do a couple of things sometimes, like he was putting the suit on or changing headphones or something. And I actually jumped onto his live stream momentarily.
Oh, I love it.
And yeah, just kind of kept things going for a couple of minutes.
Nice.
Which was fun.
Oh, yeah, there was a coffee story?
Oh, yeah. So talking about, I can't remember exactly how that came up, but talking about the Doppler and the changes in consistency of the atmosphere and how because of that, you could tell, because of the difference of the Doppler, like coming back at you, right?
Like redshift and whatnot.
Right, that you could tell the difference in consistency was kind of what got me. Over last weekend, I had the privilege of being a judge for a barista competition. And there were a number of things that we were judging on, and one of them was consistency of the drinks themselves. So there were a number of times where drinks were presented to us in ceramic mugs, and so they would look correct on the outside, but it wasn't a tasting. Tasting wasn't part of the competition or part of the judgment. However, the consistency was. So if it said it was a cappuccino and it was put in a ceramic mug, or it said it was a latte and it was put in a ceramic mug, it could look nearly identical. So we literally had to take a spoon and set the spoon on top to see if the foam would hold the spoon, and then push back on the foam to see if, when you push back on the foam for the spoon width, if you got more foam underneath or if it was just liquid underneath, which would be the differentiation between a latte and a cappuccino. So when he said that, I was like, oh, now like I can see how that would make sense, because if the consistency is changing, or if the consistency is changing the same or staying the same, then you could tell how thick or thin it was, I guess. It made sense to me. It made sense to me in that way. And so I wasn't going to go through all of that like during news. I was like, oh, okay, well, now I have a coffee reference, and that makes sense to me now, and I can understand it.
There's your shout out.
Yeah, from right here.
Yeah,
Perfect.
actually, this audio will be good to go.
Sweet.
Shout out to the citizens of tomorrow from the press site. The Falcon Heavy just launched and landed. We had the greatest cool time. He was live streaming.
Oh my gosh.
And I've got great video and audio to upload. So you guys, thanks for supporting tomorrow, and we'll see you live.
Yes.
Woo.
All right. Let's go down here.
I love it. So cute. So cute.
That was really fun. And that was one of those microphones from 20 feet away.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wow, that sound of that was great.
And that was direct to the camera and everything. I was completely unedited.
Did you have you must have had like a giant dead kitten on that, right? Like just like an insane, crazy.
Please explain that term for anyone who's freaking out right now.
Well, you go and you
What? Oh my God! You killed a kitten!
You kill kittens. You skin them.
Just saying, because it's not exactly an acronym, but it also is an insider term.
Has to be a gray one though, right?
That makes you sound like you're crazy.
Think of it like a windscreen for a microphone. It looks like, and they're called. They actually look like dead cats when you put them on a microphone. I think that's where it looks like a dead kitten. But yeah, that's kind of the industry term. Is called.
Yeah, I actually 3D printed a structure that slides onto the microphones, and then I take it's just faux fur, squares of faux fur that are, I don't know, about 9 inches square, 10 by 12 or something like that, and wrap them around that framework and rubber band them on.
Nice.
So there's a fluffy fur sticking out, and then there's a dead air space between the inside of that faux fur and the microphone itself, and that'll knock down a lot of wind noise. But even so, I had to put both those microphones. There's a photo on my Twitter feed of my microphone setup, and one of them was behind the red that you saw in the video was a blanket. It's actually an Antares blanket that we got from Orbital for one of the Antares launches.
Oh, I love
and
it.
the
That's
other
awesome.
was behind you guys probably seen my tan NASA jacket.
Mm-hmm.
So my tan NASA jacket was hanging on another piece of equipment with a microphone kind of hunkered down behind it.
Nice.
So, but both of them with these, black faux fur dead cat windscreens, they're about that big.
That is true. So I refer to it as dead kitten. That's because I use smaller microphones from Rode, and they call theirs the dead kitten. It's actually dead cat for the larger microphones.
Yeah, right.
No, it is fun to go to B&H and search for dead kitten and get results. Also, yeah, promised a plant shot. So there you go. You got the lettuce on the left. Look, it's just like, and then all the different.
Yeah, you don't get a proper idea of it from that angle because you're shooting it from above, but sitting eye level, and it's growing down the side of the.
Yeah,
that's a lot of lettuce. That's great.
I don't think I can make it.
It's a crazy amount of lettuce.
That's a significant amount of bone in water. Thank you, Dada. Glad Dada liked that one.
I didn't get it.
So.
Jesus.
Woo! So we got a couple space pods. What else we got? Any other questions from the chat room that we're able to answer?
We are behind with sandwich making.
I do like Lars von Braun. Ben watches Disney. Disney watches Ben. I don't really watch Disney. I visit Disney parks, but I'm not really big into their movies much. My dad.
Right.
Dad dog, got anything in there you can smoke? I mean, strawberries, I guess.
I wouldn't vape strawberries. That wouldn't work so well. You could definitely do edibles with strawberries.
We've got we've got strawberries. We've got jalapeno. No, red peppers.
Oh yeah, I think
red peppers, and then we've got some sort of flour, and then lettuce. We've got an immense amount of lettuce.
Yeah.
No, we are not growing oregano.
All right, I think we should, now that we've got a space mic back, we should do his space pod really quick.
Sure.
And then Jared will transition over to yours, and then I think we might call it a day unless anyone else has anything else. I'm crashing. I'm still exhausted. This, you know, I haven't been on the show for the last 2 weeks because I had been prepping for Falcon Heavy, and I mean, it's been nonstop for me. Just insane, crazy long hours. I think it ended up being worth it, but yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot. All right, Space Mike, you ready?
I think so.
Cool. You're up.
Okay. Just a second here. Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tomorrow. This week, I wanted to talk about how the European Space Agency and Airbus have signed a partnership agreement to, let me start over, sorry. Blah. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tomorrow. This week for your Space Pod, I wanted to talk about how the European Space Agency and Airbus have signed a commercial partnership agreement to launch and fly the commercial Bartolomeo module to the International Space Station. This is your Space Pod for Tuesday, February 13th. Okay. So this is Airbus's new external payload hosting facility, which will be attached to the European Columbus module of the International Space Station around mid-2019. This project actually started several years ago and has been marketed by Airbus commercially since at least last year, where they've even signed up a few customers for its use. But this new partnership makes it official. The agreement defines the roles and responsibilities of the two partners, with Airbus investing around 40 million euros into the development, construction, and launch of this platform. And the European Space Agency is providing Bartolomeo's installation to the International Space Station. Bartolomeo will be launched in the unpressurized compartment of an ISS supply vehicle, most likely the Dragon, and it will be installed using the ISS robotics system and an extravehicular activity, or a spacewalk. And Airbus is then responsible at that time for all the different operations and payload integration. Now, these new commercially available opportunities are open to users worldwide and are coming in from areas that are looking at doing Earth observations, technology demonstrations, astro and heliophysics, material science, and all sorts of new different spaceflight applications and commercial missions, which is creating a cost and time-efficient way for having institutional and private organizations bring their experiments into space as external payloads. Now, Airbus claims they can get payloads launched just 8 15 months after signing a contract, and then will manage most of the details from launch and installation to in-space operations, communications links, and even all the way to returning the experiment to Earth if that's required. Now, interestingly, it's actually named after the younger brother of Christopher Columbus, Bartolomeo, and it's going to hover 12 payload slots to the outside of the Columbus module, and all the different growing number of commercial space users that are looking at payloads in the 100-kilogram class is what's driving the demand for this. And the payloads don't require any hands-on maintenance by astronauts, and they can be operated outside the ISS. The platform that's been developed has recently passed a preliminary design review and is on track for launch in May of 2019. Now, the first payloads are then expected to be installed in the second half of 2019. And the kind of key to this service is they're developing this new attachment called the General Purpose Oceaneering Latching Device, or GOLD, and it's a new attachment mechanism for payloads in the close to the 125 kilogram range, and it's developed by Airbus's partner Oceaneering Space Systems in Houston, Texas. And the two companies are working on a way to what this new system would offer is be able to attach the different payload platforms onto this Bartolomeo module using the robotic arm instead of having to have any sort of EVAs or spacewalks to go outside and install new payloads. So I think that this is a really interesting idea, and I think that it's really...
Let's do that last paragraph again. Platform development.
Okay. Now, the platform development has recently passed the preliminary design review and is on track for launch in May of 2019. The first payloads are then expected to be installed in the second half of 2019. And the key to offering a service like this for smaller payloads is a new attachment that they're developing called the General Purpose Oceaneering Latching Device, or GOLD. And it's a new attachment mechanism for payloads of up to 125 kilograms and about 0.5 meters cubed. And it's developed by Airbus's partner Oceaneering Space Systems in Houston, Texas. The two companies are also working on the system to be able to have a way to attach the different payload platforms to the Columbus module using the International Space Station robotic arms so that they don't have to have any sort of EVAs or spacewalk to attach the payloads onto the Bartolomeo platform. So I think that this is a really interesting idea, and I'm very happy that this proposal is now official and is going to be installed onto the International Space Station. So I'm really excited for that. But in case you missed it, be sure to check out our last live show, Orbit 11.06, where we had a roundtable discussion talking about the successful Falcon Heavy flight and its future moving forward. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already, and be sure to tune in every Saturday where we are live at 1800 Coordinated Universal Time. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and if you're wanting to support us, you can check us out on patreon.com as well as makersupport.com/TMRO. Thank you very much for everyone's support, and until the next time, keep moving onwards and upwards, everybody, and don't forget, Ad Astra to the stars.
Cool. Good job.
Cool. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, but good luck with your space pod, Jared. Good show, everybody, and it's been one hell of a week.
Yeah, great job today, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Vax, again for coming on and for sharing your footage and everything like that.
Oh, that was fun.
All right.
All right. Well, bye, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye. You too. Thanks, Space Mike. See you next week. And he's bars. He's gone to bars.
At least he didn't go to Plaid.
All right. We good to go?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So far, we've found nearly 4,000 exoplanets in our own galaxy. But are there planets outside of our galaxy? Extragalactic planets?
Pluto is a planet.
That's what?
Don't trigger him.
Stop it, Ben.
Pluto.
Stop that mess.
Pluto's a planet.
I think we literally had like a 20-minute argument about it in the car once.
Was that before or after I changed my mind?
I think it was before, but I don't know.
Probably. So, okay. So far, we've found nearly 4,000 exoplanets in our own galaxy. But are there planets in other galaxies outside of ours? It's a trope of science fiction, and as of a few days ago, it's a fact of a scientific paper. And this is your Space Pod for Thursday, February 15th, 2018. There we go.
Pluto!
Ben, calm down!
Pluto!
Calm down!
Pluto!
What's up?
Is Pluto flat?
Is Pluto flat?
Yeah.
Get the you know what out of here. So stop that. Stop that mess. All right, you ready? Oh, we're just going to go straight in? So
That's up to you. You want?
let's go straight in. Let's just go straight in. That makes it a lot easier on me. So,
Oh, well, then let's not do that.
all right, Ben, fine. I'll just say the first paragraph to the camera as I planned. Ready? Watch this. It's like, so. Einstein's theory of general relativity. I need to get a photo of that. That's pretty good. So stay there, Ben. That's a good one. How can I do my space pod when that's looking at me? This is why I miss my garage, because I didn't have this kind of stuff. So, anyways. Einstein's theory of general relativity, a hotbed of activity over the past couple of years, finally comes into play to give us a glimpse of...
It's a hotbed.
It's so hot right now. Einstein's theory of general relativity. It's so hot right now.
So hot right now.
It's so hot right now. Oh my gosh. So. No, I'm good. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Einstein's theory of general relativity, a hotbed of scientific activity over the past couple years, finally comes back into play to help us find extragalactic exoplanets. Now, this was a study that was done at the University of Oklahoma by postdoctoral student... Boy, did I blow that one. So, how do you pronounce that? Where's Mike? I should have asked Mike how to pronounce that. Xinyu.
Xinyu?
Xinyu? Xinyu Dai? Okay. Gotcha. I'll just go with that, unless the... That's a tough one. So, Xinyu. Okay, you ready? A study at the University of Oklahoma by postdoctoral student Xinyu Dai and Professor Eduardo Garris used a technique known to astrophysicists and cosmologists as gravitational microlensing. This technique looks at the light from a distant object as it is bent and focused by a closer object, but specifically without needing electromagnetic radiation or light of any kind from the lensing object in the foreground. Now, this allows for us to take precise measurements of small mass objects from very, very far away. In addition, the transit method of exoplanet detection was utilized, looking for the dips in the amount of light coming from a star as an exoplanet crosses its disk. Now, the galaxy being observed here, very aptly named RxJ1131-1231, has a supermassive black hole at its core, and the microlensing properties of the supermassive black hole enable this observation to occur. Additional data was gathered from the Chandra X-ray telescope, and some serious crunching by a supercomputer at the University of Oklahoma showed the presence of exoplanets roughly the mass of Jupiter to that of Earth's moon, to the tune of nearly 2,000 unbound per main sequence star. Yes, 2,000 exoplanets per main sequence star. Now, this technique for observation is now available to astronomy as a whole. So telescopes such as the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope, its upcoming Extremely Large Telescope, and even NASA's James Webb Space Telescope can perform similar studies. Now, don't forget to check out last week's show, Orbit 11.06, where we talk about the epic Falcon Heavy test flight and what that means for the future of spaceflight. And if you'd like to, tune in at 1800 Coordinated Universal Time every Saturday to watch our live shows. So, until the next Space Pod, keep exploring.
Do you want to redo that with like and subscribe?
Oh, I got it. You want me to redo that?
Ben?
I didn't hear what you said.
I forgot to say like and subscribe. Do you want me to go ahead and redo that? You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Also, my IFB battery died in the middle of that. My IFM.
IEM.
My IBM died in the middle of the thing. So
IBM.
that was interesting. So
I lost my IFB.
Your mom's an IBM. So
Jared.
What's up?
What's happening?
Who's happening?
You have trolls?
No,
Oh, it just keeps booting us?
dumb.
Yep, I know. Got to keep refreshing.
Stupid dumb today. Stupid dumb today.
Screams.
I'm so done with this code.
This code's so hot right now.
13 times so far. Yes, I'm keeping track. Oh, it's yours.
Any final comments, everyone? Are we winding down? Any last stuff for Vax while we've got him? Vax, how many times have you been on the show? Do you have any idea?
I think this is 10.
Oh, we should have gotten you like a jacket or something.
Just give me a patch. I'll put it on my other jacket.
We'll do it tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh my. Boo.
Hey, I do have. Hey Ben, if you want to see the microphones, I have them. I went and got one of my hypercardioids here.
I mean, it's going to look like a giant shotgun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this microphone is just a regular pencil mic, and this part of it from here to here is the normal capsule with the cardioid on the end of it. This then is the hypercardioid shotgun mic. So it's a monster, and so I had to make a windscreen that went from this. Can you see this opening here, from there all the way out to the end, and then sits off partly off the end of it. So, you know, it's a lot of weight, and I need to figure out how to lighten it up a little bit. But
did you have it on a C-stand, or what'd you do?
I had a regular boom microphone stand.
Oh, sure.
And you know, that works fine. But yeah, 2 of those, pointing down range. So
so traditionally the hosts on the webcast also wear hypercardioid lapels, which are kind of hard to find.
Right.
Most lapels, you don't want them to be hypercardioid because they're too focused. So if you turn your head too far, you fall off really quickly. But you know, it's really loud there because we're essentially right. I mean, we're basically in the kitchen, and everyone's like, "What, are you guys in the kitchen?" And we're like, "Yeah, actually, yes, we are." So
what's all the clanging of pots and pans up there?
Are they in the cafeteria? Yes, that's exactly where we are. So you know, we're like, all right, that's not going to fly. So if you notice this last webcast, we wore head-worn microphones. They weren't Countrymen's, but they were also very, very directional. The idea being we could gain them way down because it's right next to their mouth. So at least you were able to hear talent. But I don't know if you could tell. They were still shouting, and you could barely hear them. That's how loud it was.
I went back and watched the live web broadcast when I got back to the hotel on Tuesday night. Just because I hadn't seen it, right? I couldn't see anything, right? So we were watching that. And I was watching that at the hotel that night, and yeah, they were like talking really loud or shouting just to be heard over the crowd. It was crazy.
See, I didn't know I had my IFB back. I would have clean weight.
Jared.
Oh my God.
So I had to figure out. It was interesting. I had to figure out how to pack these in a suitcase, right? So I found a heavy cardboard tube that would fit. I had 2 of them, and I slid it down the cardboard tube. So
TSA did not like my luggage when I went down to the Cape.
Oh, I bet.
They were like, what?
Well, they opened up my suitcase on the way down, but they didn't open it on the way back. And they left me a nasty gram in there that said, we opened your suitcase because you didn't follow our rules. They didn't tell me which rule I didn't follow. They just said, go follow our rules. You know, there's 100 rules. You know, I don't know. But they didn't open it on the way back, so.
They didn't open mine on the way back
crazy,
either.
you know?
But the reason they didn't open on the way back is because I left all my stuff at the Cape. So I only came back with clothes.
Your microphones cannot exceed 4 ounces.
You know, so I did not bring one of these down there, but I've always hated the name Weapon from the Red camera. Trying to travel with a red weapon. What a horrible, horrible idea that is. Like, they couldn't have picked a worse name for a camera.
Yeah, that's goofy.
Yep.
So here's the, I don't know if you can see the insignias on there. So there's the, that's the pattern.
Oh yeah.
On the hyper, right? And then there's the regular one. If I can find out where that
there.
Graphic is.
There it is.
Yeah.
You had it.
Just as a regular
I'm pointing to a screen
cardioid graphic.
Yep.
Now this last quarter inch up here actually unscrews and comes off, and you can replace that with an Omni capsule, right? These are really cool old microphones. They sell for about $100 on eBay, and I have, I don't know, 7 of them now or something. And I have 3 of these hypercardioid capsules. But they take a 9-volt battery that's like a fat AA, and
people know what 9 volts are, Vax. You're not that old. 9 volts are still a thing.
No.
It's a different.
The 9 volt is a weird battery. It's not a square.
Oh.
It fits inside this. It fits inside of here.
Okay? Copy.
So, right. So what we found from one of the Nakamichi engineers is that they'll actually sustain 14 volts. So I have 2 little 6-volt batteries inside of here, and I 3D print a sleeve to go on them and put that inside.
Will it take Phantom?
And no.
Oh, that's a bummer. I'd run them at a launch site if they took Phantom, but I'm not going to run something that requires a battery.
Right. So fortunately, these more modern, photodiode batteries have a really long life. So I can run them. I run them. I record my church services every Sunday morning with these, right? So the pastor doesn't have to wear a lapel mic, because he likes to walk around. And I don't have any wireless. We're just renting a facility right now. So I actually just point these at him. So he's like, it feels like I'm like being, monitored by the Empire or something. Like a probe droid, big black camera with these big microphones pointing at him. But the audio comes out great. But I've one set of batteries lasts me for, I don't know, months.
Really?
So
you're not running them 24/7, right? You're just running them for a few hours at a time.
No, I'm running them an hour and a half a week, but for 6 months. So they probably have 30 or 40 hours in them. So I just got to remember to turn them off afterwards. So, but other than that, they're cool, and they have a big following on the internet. So I actually sell those battery cylinders. And the windscreens, the ball windscreens that go on the end of these have gotten kind of destroyed over the years. So I 3D print some ways to fix that up, and I sell them for a couple $.
All right, Vax, I think we are winding down. I think the show is completing. Hang on, I'll step over here. Anyone? Any last comments from anyone in the thing?
Goodbye, Internet.
Goodbye, Internet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bye, Vax. Thank you for your time on Saturday. I hope you had fun at the Falcon Heavy launch. I hope that was.
It was epic. It was really great.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I got to see my first Falcon launch, the one prior, the GovSat launch, because I had to be down there to set up for Heavy, and it just so happened that launch happened one day after my birthday. So otherwise, had that not happened, I would not have been able to be at the Cape, because I usually have to be in Hawthorne for launches.
Sure,
but,
right, yeah.
I needed to be there to get Heavy going, so yeah.
Yeah.
I was still on console, though. That was the fun thing.
Yeah. Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
So they took the photographers out to set up remote cameras to 5 different locations. So we were all around the pad, inside and outside the fence. And so I could see how much gear was set up there that belonged to SpaceX. There was cameras everywhere.
Did they bring you anywhere near the flame trench?
No.
I had some interesting stuff going on. Take a look at the webcast again and try to figure out how we got some of those angles and really think about what you're looking at. Like really, really look at those camera shots.
Yeah.
Really, really look at those camera shots and think about that for a second. Aww. Aww. All right, Internet. I think we're done. Thank you, Vax. Everyone have a great week.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Have a good one.
All right.
Bye. And goodbye, Internet.